One Caspian updated his social media status after getting married. From now on, he is officially certified as a husband. His group chat immediately went wild. Everyone celebrated. The sweethearts had finally made it from school uniforms to gorgeous wedding gowns, but just as the chat vibe hit boiling point, Caspian added a beautiful boss lady professor. She was his actual wife. No jokes here, guys. The entire group chat instantly froze solid, complete silence. You could hear the crickets. It all started 2 days ago. While cleaning their new home, he accidentally shattered the cup gifted by her unforgettable ex, her precious first love. Caspian hesitated, photographed the broken porcelain, and sent it to his fiancée, Serafina. She replied, "Wait for me at home." He looked down at his wound. It was bleeding heavily. Caspian did not expect the cut to be this deep. Had he known, he would not have rushed to grab those shards. 15 minutes later, Serafina returned. Seeing the broken cup on the floor, her expression turned dark. She demanded, "Caspian, what on earth did you do?" Facing her, his voice softened as he spoke. "I am sorry, I accidentally bumped it." Serafina breathed heavily, trying to suppress her rage, pointing at the shards. Her voice was ice cold. "Pick it up right now." He knew she was mad, but over a cup from her ex. Caspian showed her his bloody palm, saying, "I just sliced my hand wide open. Let me put a bandage on first." She did not even look, coldly demanding, "Pick it up, are you deaf?" Caspian grabbed her hand. "I am sorry, I will buy you a brand new one." "Okay," but Serafina shook him off. She snapped, "Caspian, you did this on purpose, did you not?" Hearing this, his heart bubbled over. "It is just a cup. Do you really need to be this mad at me?" Serafina exploded. She shouted, "Just a cup. You say that so lightly, do you even know what this cup means? Clean it up and glue it back." When she said that, Caspian felt completely frozen, cold as ice. It turned out he was not even as important as a cup from her past. He stared in silence, wondering if this old keepsake was worth more than their upcoming marriage. Is she going to cling to her ex forever? Breaking this cup felt like shattering their lingering connection. And that is why she is so incredibly furious with him. Then, sharp slap echoes. Serafina viciously hits him across the face. His head jerks sideways, his mind going completely blank as his ears buzz. The room turns freezing cold as he stands there in complete shock. Her hand trembles from the impact as she growls, "Get out." Caspian looks at her with pure disappointment. "Serafina, am I in the wrong here?" Without waiting, he turns around and walks away. Serafina kneels to pick up the white porcelain shards on the floor. Feeling her hand still stinging, frustration and chaos wash over her completely. She fiercely smashes the shards back down, breaking them even further. With shattered porcelain behind him, he bolted outside, running so fast he tripped and crashed hard. His palms and knees scraped against the concrete, oozing blood, but he scrambled right back up. He just needed to escape this place as quickly as possible. On his way, he brushed shoulders with a woman with an exceptionally elegant figure and hurried away. She saw everything. Looking down, she spotted a set of keys dropped on the ground. Just as she was about to call out and warn him, she turned her head only to find he had already sped off, leaving nothing but tail lights in the dark. He got home, stood right in front of the door, and frantically emptied his pockets. There was absolutely no sign of his keys. He leaned back against the frame. Exhausted, the left side of his face still stung, but his heart ached much. Worse, after resting for a moment, he decided to search for his lost keys. They must have slipped out when he crashed onto the pavement earlier. Stepping out of the neighborhood gate, his path was suddenly blocked by a strange woman. He did not even bother to look up at her face, completely numb. In a raspy voice, he muttered, "No sales pitches needed," before trying to step right past her, but then she reached her hand out. She mentioned the things he dropped on West Road, sitting right in her palm was his missing key. Only then did he finally pause and look directly at her face. She was stunning, easily rivaling or even surpassing Serafina's beauty. A tall figure with a cool, detached aura, she carried herself like a boss. The woman's quiet gaze landed right on his bruised face, too. Seeing his injuries, she seemed to space out for a brief second. He took the key, quickly lowering his eyes as he quietly thanked her for the trouble. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out his phone to offer gas money. She dismissed it with a wave, saying it was just a chance encounter. She knew deep down that staring at him like that was rude, so she quickly looked away and left. Meanwhile, he spent 2 days in bed. His phone was turned completely off for those 2 long days. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, the doorbell suddenly rang. He was lying there completely drained of energy. Slowly forcing himself out of bed, he went to answer the loud door. His best friend, Thatcher, stood there, ready to give him a piece of his mind, but seeing him look so pale and completely broken, Thatcher stopped himself. He frowned and asked with deep concern what on earth had happened. He silently stepped aside to let his friend in without saying a word. Thatcher did not press him. Instead, he went straight to the kitchen and cooked some hot noodles. Only after watching him finish eating did Thatcher ask again what had happened. He looked up, admitting he broke a cup at Serafina's place. The cup was from her ex, so she slapped him. Thatcher froze in shock. They had all grown up together. Surely she would never hit him over that. But he remained quiet, confirming that the slap was indeed very real. Hearing this, Thatcher's rage immediately boiled over. Everyone knew they were getting married soon, with the legal paperwork just around the corner. No one expected things to fall apart so miserably. Then Thatcher spotted the deep scrapes on his knees and asked what happened there. He lay on his side on the sofa, closed his eyes, and claimed he just tripped and fell. After Caspian fell asleep, Thatcher finally left the house and then made a phone call to Alora. Before long, Thatcher arrived at the Hepburn bar. After walking in, he grabbed a bottle of liquor from the counter and strode right into the VIP booth inside. He was pretty much a regular here, and management knew him. Seeing him march in with this ready-to-fight energy, absolutely nobody dared to stop him. Thatcher pushed open the door to the booth, then threw the entire liquor bottle right at the floor on Serafina's side. It smashed at her feet, shattering into pieces. Alora gasped, sucking in a breath of cold air. She blocked the space between Thatcher and Serafina. What was wrong? Why the massive anger issues today? Thatcher kept a cold face, glaring viciously at Serafina. He mocked her, asking what was wrong, while Serafina downed all the liquor in her glass, her right hand clutching her designer bag so hard her knuckles turned white. The memory of slapping Caspian that day was extremely vivid. Talk about a shocker. Alora turned to ask if she seriously hit Caspian. No wonder she had been dragging her out to drink lately. All 4 of them were childhood sweethearts, and their parents were all close friends too. How was he? Serafina loosened the grip of her right hand, asking this single question weakly. Thatcher glared, demanding if she could not go see him herself. Hearing this, Serafina slowly closed her eyes, murmuring that she would go in a few days. Once they both cooled down, Thatcher suddenly let out a sharp, mocking scoff, nodded and muttered, "Fine." After saying that, he turned around and left. When exiting the booth, he shot Alora a look. Alora gulped and told Serafina she was leaving before Thatcher got mad. He woke up later, smelled a rich aroma. An aroma permeating the air, with kitchen sounds hinting that Thatcher was back. But Alora was there, bringing the last dish of steamed fish to the table. She greeted him warmly. Caspian rubbed his sore, swollen eyes, surprised she was there. Alora saw his swollen face and realized Serafina must have really hit him hard, but she stayed quiet, just chuckled softly instead. She joked that she was afraid he would get poisoned by Thatcher's cooking. During the meal, only Caspian actually ate. Alora and Thatcher only took a few bites, staring at him the whole time. After finishing the meal, Caspian took out a small, long blue velvet box. He placed it near Alora, asking her to return the Luo family engagement bracelet too. Her looking at the bracelet in front of her, Alora asked if he could really just cut ties after loving her for so many years. Hearing this, he touched his left cheek. He could not, but that slap woke him up. Without that violent hit, he might still comfort himself thinking it was just a mistake, but this slap scattered every last bit of hope he had. Thatcher and Alora were both his close friends, but this relationship drama was not their battle to fight. After they left, he closed the door and took a deep breath before finally plugging in his phone to power it on. Thatcher had sent a ton of texts, along with updates from his coffee shop. Caspian stopped his finger on the pinned name at the top, Darling Wife, complete with 2 little heart emojis, yet Serafina had not sent a single. Staring at her contact name on screen only filled him with a bitter, ironic sadness. He hit delete immediately, tossing out all of Serafina's photos. He never expected to find so many memories piled up in his study. The next morning, he left his apartment early and headed straight to his cozy coffee shop. He opened this cozy place right after finishing college. Arriving early, he brought a warm breakfast for the staff before they opened. Since he had been completely missing in action for 3 days, the staff looked utterly shocked. They greeted him warmly, asking where he had been the last 2 days. They sent texts but got nothing back, so he joked about his breakup. Everyone froze instantly, remembering how he was planning his wedding just days ago. He had even promised them wedding favors, but nobody dared bring it up. Instead, one of his employees tried to cheer him up with a bright, comforting smile. He mentioned that their incredibly beautiful regular customer might stop by some time today. The boss just chuckled, asking who could possibly be that stunning. Soon, the rest of the crew eagerly joined the fun conversation. They described an incredibly gorgeous woman who visited them 3 times a week. She was always perfectly on time, appearing like clockwork on those very specific days of the week. Those days were Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, which piqued his curiosity. And honestly, who wouldn't be curious after a build-up like that? He grabbed his own cup of coffee and found a quiet corner seat. Staring out the window at the passing crowd, he suddenly froze. He spotted a familiar woman just as an employee brought his drink over. The excited employee pointed out the window, urging him to look quickly. He stared, completely stunned by the woman walking toward the entrance. It was the exact same stranger who had returned his lost keys. She had called it a chance encounter, and now they were meeting again. Honestly, what are the odds of them crossing paths? This felt like genuine fate. His employee lined in with a very playful smirk on his face. He whispered that the boss had some serious moves, making him laugh. As she walked inside, he got up to stand behind her. Just as she pulled up her quick response payment code, he stepped in. He scanned his own code first, beating her to it. The cashier saw exactly what was happening and held back a laugh. Playing along perfectly, the cashier politely told her to wait a moment. The beautiful stranger paused, turning her head to see who did it. Recognizing him instantly, she watched as he offered her a gentle smile. He thanked her warmly for rescuing his lost keys before heading back to his table. He felt deeply grateful for her quiet kindness during his incredibly dark week. Her kindness had truly comforted him, and now her curious gaze followed him. She watched him all the way back until the cashier spoke up. He handed over her drink, and she slowly carried it over. Approaching his table, she was cut off before she could even speak. He jokingly begged her not to offer any money back, making her smile. She simply thanked him for the treat, then quietly walked away. The afternoon rushed by in a blur, and they finally closed at 9 p.m. Caspian is just organizing cups when someone walks in. "Sorry, we are closing," he says, but looking up, his body goes stiff. It is Serafina. She's holding that small blue square box he had asked Alora to return to her. Serafina's face is icy cold as she stares dead into his eyes. Pretending to be calm, Caspian slowly puts a cup into the display. Cabinet, suddenly she slams the small box right down onto the counter. Caspian. What does returning this even mean? He replies coldly, do you not understand? It means I do not want to marry you anymore. Pure anger flashes across Serafina's face. Over such a tiny little thing, she snaps, you are throwing a tantrum. Since when did you become so completely unreasonable? Caspian wonders if this is her true self or just angry nonsense she is spewing. Either way, Caspian absolutely cannot stand to listen to her words any longer, and he definitely will not try to find some deeper meaning behind them. Is this just a tiny thing, he asks, then what constitutes a big thing? His voice rises, completely unable to control his surging emotions. His love for her was completely worthless, only to be dismissed as a tiny thing. Watching Serafina's face turn incredibly dark with offense, Caspian lets out a bitter laugh. He snatches up that small blue box and forcefully hurls it right out the door, staring at Serafina. He points a finger directly toward the exit. Scram, get the hell out. The woman who was just about to step inside freezes instantly in her tracks. She stands quietly right at the entrance. Meanwhile, Serafina, who has never been told to scram, is absolutely blinded by pure rage, gritting her teeth as she sneers. I came all the way here to check on your injury, she says, but I am just asking for humiliation. With that, she storms out of the shop without looking back. On her way out, she picks up the blue box and tosses it into the trash. The woman still standing at the door has witnessed another dramatic scene unfold. Talk about awkward. Last time she saw him struggling with his keys. This time he is having a massive fight with his girlfriend. Well, she should probably be considered his ex now. The woman slowly walks inside, asking quietly if they still have any coffee. Before she can even finish speaking, she notices Caspian standing there with his head down, completely silent. He does not react. Just as she thinks about saying something comforting, his eyes suddenly grow firm. Forcing a smile, Caspian asks what she would like to drink. In a very pleasant boss lady voice, the woman requests a cappuccino. He shakes his head, telling her there is no more cappuccino left. After saying that, he pulls 2 packets of instant coffee out of the counter drawer. I only have these 2 packets left, he says, but I can brew them for you if you want. The woman looks at the cheap instant coffee in his hands and nods. Caspian quickly brews it for her, then takes out a slice of cake he had packed to take home, sharing half of it with her. Caspian asks why she is out so late, and the woman takes a slow sip. She just got off work, feeling completely exhausted, and wanted to try her luck to see if the coffee shop was still open. Pausing, she adds that she really likes the coffee here. Hearing this, Caspian smiles. Thank you for liking it, he replies before changing the subject, asking for her name. Aurelia traces a character on the table with her finger. Shia, she says. Knowing her last name, Caspian takes the opportunity to tell her his. Caspian introduces himself as Caspian Liu and asks if she always works this late. Aurelia sips her instant coffee, her elegant eyebrows furrowing slightly as she tastes it. Some sudden work tasks kept her busy tonight. Caspian rubs his neck, worrying that the cheap instant coffee tastes awful to her. Seeing her finish it, he immediately takes the empty cup to the back. By the time he walks back inside, she has already cleared the entire table herself. Just as he prepares to close the shop, Aurelia suddenly speaks up first. She asks how much she owes, but Caspian simply smiles and refuses to charge her. She frowns and gestures toward the remaining half of the cake on the table. She insists on paying for the remaining cake too. Caspian earnestly insists it is his treat to thank her for the keys. He was feeling incredibly down that day, making her unexpected warmth a truly beautiful gesture. Honestly, her small gesture was the only thing that kept him going back then. To Aurelia, this meeting does not feel like a simple coincidence anymore. Caspian quietly shuts the heavy shop doors as Aurelia walks over to toss her trash. She catches a quick glimpse of a blue velvet box inside the bin, but stays quiet. Caspian turns to her, asking how she plans to get back home tonight. Orlia clicks her key, and her Xiaomi S7 flashes across the street. She points across the street, and Caspian waves a polite farewell. He wishes her a safe drive, but she hesitates right beside her car door. Standing right by the open car door, she decides to leave him with some advice. She warns him not to lose himself in a relationship because love is not everything. She normally avoids speaking up, knowing people rarely listen to unsolicited advice anyway. Yet tonight, she simply cannot help but look out for him. Caspian heads upstairs, showers, and collapses onto his bed, completely drained. Checking his phone, he finds a string of worried texts from his friend Thatcher. Lying on his stomach at the very edge of the bed, he quickly dials Thatcher back. Thatcher answers, sounding extremely worried about him. He asks where Caspian is and if Serafina came by to apologize. Caspian rubs his forehead, scoffing bitterly at the mention of an apology. She came to pick a fight instead, saying her hitting him was just a minor thing. Their relationship is officially over, which leaves Thatcher completely stunned. Serafina normally acts so elegant, yet turns totally toxic around her ex. Thatcher sighs over the phone, shaking his head in complete disbelief. He asks how Caspian is holding up after everything that happened. Caspian feels incredibly pathetic for wasting so many years of his life loving her. He wanted to feel sad, but Orlia showing up completely distracted him. Even though she caught him at his worst, she never judged him. Honestly, sometimes a friendly chat is the exact thing you need to stop your mind from spiraling. Caspian tells him he is fine and that each blow helps him wake up. Perhaps after a few more times, he will be able to take it all in stride. Thatcher chuckles, glad to hear his friend standing his ground so firmly. They talk for a bit longer before finally ending the call. Realizing he forgot his daily medication, Caspian slowly gets up to grab it. He pours himself a glass of warm water while the scene shifts to Alara at the bar. She pats her friend's back, asks if the apology went badly. What went wrong? Did Caspian refuse to forgive her? Serafina just keeps downing drinks. Alara tries to stop her, demanding to know what exactly happened to cheer her up. Serafina ignores her sarcastic remarks. She admits she only went to confront him. She wanted to know why he returned her stuff. He should have been nice. Instead, she lost her temper and said awful things. He literally told her to scram. Alara is speechless. You slapped him and expect him to be sweet to you. Caspian has spoiled her rotten over the years. She will not even try to fix it. But honestly, Alara already knew her friend was just speaking out of anger. Still, the reality remains. She actually laid hands on the poor guy. Caspian and Thatcher are identical. Both share the exact same ruthless streak. One shows his feelings openly, while the other bottles them deep inside. Either way, they will both cut you off if you cross the line. Serafina mutters quietly with a red face. She figured he would be calm by now. She thought they would make up today and easily get back together. They were supposed to get married today. Now, that plan is delayed. Alara actually bursts out laughing. Seriously, you need a major reality check. His face was literally red from that slap. Avoiding a breakup is already a miracle. Forget getting married. Serafina shakes her head and insists he will never leave her. She claims she knows how much he loves her. Alara is completely speechless. Sometimes she cannot stand her friend, but Alara holds a massive secret. A secret about Serafina that she has kept from Caspian all this time. It is not major but very hurtful. If Caspian ever stops loving her, she will spill everything. The next morning at 8, Caspian arrives early. He wants to keep busy, anything to avoid overthinking the relationship drama. As soon as he arrives at the shop, a staff member grins at him. She teases him, was that gorgeous beauty yesterday to his liking? Another girl chimes in, laughing. The boss even paid for her order. It really looks like she already has the boss's stamp of approval. Caspian does not explain. He remembers hearing that Orlia visits often. She visits every Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. Today is Thursday. He leans on the counter with a smile, time to make a move. Since they are hyping it up, he will treat her to coffee today. Hearing this, the staff starts making a ruckus. We want some too. They complain that they never get this kind of VIP treatment from him. The playful bickering really cheers him up. Caspian shrugs and plays along. You guys make coffee every single day. Can't you just drink yours? They pout, we do not want coffee. Boss, you are playing favorites. Caspian laughs out loud. Fine, afternoon tea is on him later. Their endless, dramatic compliments instantly put him in a fantastic mood. He is truly grateful to Orlaya for returning his keys last night. For that and for keeping him company, he feels deeply indebted. Offering her a few free coffees and treats is his absolute pleasure. After chatting, Caspian heads to the back room to organize stock. Right on cue, Orlaya arrives at the shop at exactly 8:20. After ordering, Orlaya showed her payment QR code. The staff just smiled, saying our boss is treating you to today's coffee. Orlaya subconsciously turned her head to look toward the table he sat at yesterday, so he was the shop boss. Another staff member making coffee next to them also leaned over and chuckled. Your good looks have even been approved by our boss, Orlaya kept her payment code presented in front of them. I appreciate your boss's kindness. I'll accept the thought, but I should pay for this. The staff waved their hands, saying, no way, next time our boss is here, you can tell him yourself. Orlaya felt completely helpless and silently sighed in her heart. Was this some hush money for the drama that happened last night? Now she owed him another cup of coffee. Holding her drink, she walked toward the table he sat at yesterday, sitting there for a good 5 minutes, seemingly waiting for him. But after failing to see anyone, she left shortly after. He was busy in the back storage room until 10. Feeling a bit tired, he finally returned to the front and heard a staff member say that the beauty broke her routine this morning, sitting in the shop for a few minutes right in that spot. The staff member pointed to the corner table, giggling, boss, do you think she was waiting for you? Lou followed the direction she pointed. It was the seat he sat in yesterday. The corners of his mouth curled, but he didn't speak, simply holding his water cup and taking a few sips. Outside, the garbage collector emptied all the trash from the bin, remembering how Serafina threw her bracelet in the trash yesterday. He even wondered last night if Serafina would actually dig it out in the middle of the night to pester him even longer, but Serafina was not someone who would do that. The argument had brought up her ex, and she felt wronged, still waiting for him to go apologize. He smiled. It was just a woman anyway. Time to just rip out those feelings and move on. Miss Orlaya was right. Love is not everything. For a few days, he stayed busy at the shop. Constantly, although tiring, it was fulfilling. Occasionally, he would still think of Serafina, but she had not appeared in front of him these past few days. It was like she evaporated. His heart had already started to settle down, much better than he had imagined. When he was dating her, he actually thought she was the only one. Talk about a massive mistake. But looking back now, she really was not. At 9 p.m., the shop was empty. He turned off the lights and prepared to head home early. Just as he went to lock the door, a familiar voice asked if he was off work. He turned around to look at the woman standing behind him. Good evening, Miss Orlaya, she replied. Good evening, Mr. Liu, while lifting her hand to present a cake right in front of him. His eyes showed some confusion, wondering what this was. Orlaya smiled. Since you would not take my money, I thought I should buy a cake for you. She knew he was only thanking her for the kindness of their chance encounter, but receiving free things constantly made her feel embarrassed. Lou also smiled. Thank you, Miss Orlaya. This way we are even. Next time I will have to charge you. After taking the cake, he suddenly wanted to take back what he just said. Even, no way, this expensive black swan cake was expensive enough to buy her 10 cups of coffee, so he decided to split this cake. Right now, he invited her in to sit for a bit, and Orlaya politely accepted. Apologizing for the intrusion, Orlai agreed as Caspian turned the lights back on. He brewed 2 hot cups of fresh floral tea that had arrived today. Placing them by her, he opened the cake box. The swan was intimidating. Orlai smiled. He had absolutely no idea where to even start cutting. "Let me do it," she said, taking the knife to make clean, flawless cuts. Perfectly plated, while she worked, Caspian asked if she had just finished work. No classes this afternoon," she replied. He took a bite. The cake was delicious. He looked up. Did she come just to deliver this? Orlai bit her lip, feeling completely conflicted. She did not want to admit it, but yes, it was true. After a few seconds, she finally nodded, saying she would feel guilty otherwise. Caspian immediately apologized, saying he had no idea she felt that way. She waved her hands hurriedly, insisting there was no need to apologize at all. She had eaten his cake that day, so returning one was only right. Caspian smiled softly and changed the subject, asking if she was a teacher. She nodded and confirmed she was a university professor. He nodded, noting her familiar vibe. Orlai looked at him, completely puzzled by his words. He quickly explained that his father was also a university professor. At first glance, she seemed strict, but his dad was actually a total softie. She was also quite gentle, even if she looked a bit cold on the surface. Caspian finished his cake and felt pretty stuffed, unable to drink more tea. Orlai sat thinking about his words, barely touching the cake in front of her. He lowered his head, covering his mouth to hide a deep, tired yawn. Seeing his exhaustion, Orlai offered to clear the table. After tidying up, she packed up the rest of the cake, and he finally headed out to his car. Rolling down the window, he waved to Orlai across the dark road. "Goodbye, Miss Orlai," she waved back. The night seemed perfect. If only he had not run into Serafina outside his gate tonight. Things would have been much better, just as he flicked on his turn signal. Preparing to turn in, Serafina suddenly blocked the front of his car. Caspian slammed on the brakes, pulled over, and got out to face her on the roadside. Serafina noticed how incredibly calm he seemed, not explosive like their last fight. She instantly let out a quiet sigh of relief, asking why he was back so late. Her tone sounded remarkably peaceful, as if they were not even fighting. For a brief second, it felt like old times, but he could not pretend. Asking if he just finished work, she reached out for his hand. Caspian quickly dodged her grasp. She noticed the obvious distance between them, but shrugged it off as him just throwing a childish tantrum. She questioned why he was home so late instead of his usual 9. Caspian explained that a friend had simply stopped by his shop to chat. Hearing this, Serafina completely let her guard down and smiled warmly. She was certain his anger had passed. After all, Caspian loved her deeply. No matter how bad their arguments got, they could never stay apart for long. Besides, she knew where to draw the line. A little drama and everything would be fine. She pointed toward his apartment building, saying they should not stand here chatting. She suggested going up to sit, since they were getting married soon anyway. She figured they could get their marriage certificate within the next few days. He followed her pointing finger, staring up at his apartment building in silence. After a few seconds, he pulled his gaze back, looking directly at Serafina. He told her to forget it, causing her delicate body to suddenly stiffen. She demanded to know what he meant, reminding her they were marrying soon. He looked at her and said flatly that he made it clear last time. He did not want to marry her anymore, reminding her she threw the bracelet away. Since things had reached this point, he asked why she even came here today. Hearing this, Serafina's lips parted slightly, her brows furrowing in utter shock. She asked if he really did not pick the bracelet back up for her. Speechless, he asked why on earth he would retrieve something she threw away. He told her this was ridiculous and turned around, preparing to walk away. But Serafina grabbed his wrist, her eyes turning icy cold as she warned him. Seriously, she still thinks she is the victim here. Talk about complete delusion. He raised his left hand and swung it straight toward her pretty face. She reacted quickly, pulling her hand back and taking a swift step backward. He only lightly grazed her cheek, leaving her expression terrifyingly cold. She demanded to know if he tried to hit her. He sneered, pointing out that he missed. He reminded her that her slap last time was very real, so why expect a happy ending now? She asked self-righteously why he kept harping on that one single issue. She claimed it only happened because he broke her favorite cup first. Hearing that, he was completely speechless, feeling an overwhelming wave of disappointment. It was utterly ridiculous, yet deeply tragic. What kind of person had he actually loved? In the end, he simply asked if she truly did not understand his pain. He told her to get lost and never show her face around him ever again. If she wanted to reminisce, she could go back to her precious ex-boyfriend instead. He turned and went straight home, lying on his bed in total, heavy silence. For the first time, he had absolutely nothing left to say to Serafina. Did she really not understand? No, he knew her far too well. Her arguments were like negotiation chips, carefully dodging the most important issues. Instead, she blew up irrelevant details. She knew exactly what she did. She simply refused to admit it, waiting for him to bow his head first. Once he apologized, she would just bring it up again, but she was wrong this time. Crossing the physical line by hitting him was his absolute limit, making her efforts futile. Standing by the window, he stared into the oppressive, suffocating night. Fortunately, a bright moon hung high above, offering a small sliver of comfort. Even if it could not light up much, his heavy chest felt lighter. The next morning, he skipped going to the coffee shop after a sleepless night. He did not wake up until 10 a.m., startled by a sudden, loud phone call. Squinting, he picked it up to find his friend Thatcher calling him. Thatcher asked if he was still asleep, noting his usual early morning coffee shop routine. He rolled over, replying tiredly that he had simply decided to sleep in today. He skipped going out today. Thatcher immediately suspected he was in a pretty bad mood. It had to be Serafina again, but instead of asking directly, Thatcher just poked around covertly. He asked if Caspian wanted him to bring over lunch at noon, but Caspian refused immediately. Seeing the refusal, Thatcher insisted he come out to grab lunch at Alora's new restaurant instead. The idea sounded great, so Caspian quietly agreed, saying he would get ready immediately. He hung up, got out of bed, quickly washed up, grabbed his car keys, and rushed straight over to the address. By the time he arrived, Thatcher and Alora were already waiting outside the door. Caspian quickly walked up and greeted them both. Thatcher looked at him and asked why he woke up at 10 o'clock, wondering if he slept badly. Caspian sighed, admitting he could not sleep. They then headed into a quiet private room. Once they sat down, Alora closely studied his face, asking if Serafina had bothered him last night. Caspian nodded, rubbing his temples as he explained that even just seeing her gave him a massive headache. He did not want to say another word to that exhausting woman. She just refuses to listen. Alora scoffed that Serafina still expects his love. Thatcher frowned, telling him to ignore her, while Alora laughed helplessly. She asked if his mother knew about his previous doctor visits, but Caspian shook his head. He avoided his mother's hospital entirely because he did not want his parents to worry. Alora then asked what he would do if his parents questioned him about Serafina. Caspian thought about it for a quiet moment, admitting he would cross that bridge. When he got there, hearing this, Alora looked down. His parents, Arthur and Evelyn, were completely happy with Serafina as their future daughter-in-law. Caspian was likely facing a massive, exhausting battle when Alora previously heard from Thatcher that Serafina actually hit Caspian over a simple broken cup. She thought the woman was completely out of her mind. Seriously, over a cup. Caspian quickly changed the subject during lunch. He suggested they stop talking about her, asking if they wanted to go shopping afterward. Since they were free, they agreed. It was called a shopping trip, but Caspian knew his friends were just incredibly worried about his state of mind. They stuffed his car trunk completely full of gifts before they finally parted ways. Caspian happened to drive past the university district, right near his parents' home. He drove straight into the residential complex, right before stepping out of the car. He dialed his father. Once Arthur answered, Caspian quickly asked if he was home, mentioning he was downstairs and craving some sweet and sour spare ribs. He also wanted twice cooked pork, but Arthur helplessly replied that it was impossible tonight. Arthur explained he had dinner plans with some old friends that evening, but promised they would make sure to enjoy those delicious dishes on Caspian's behalf. Another time, somewhat speechless, Caspian complained that he really wanted some right now. Arthur just laughed, promising to cook it for him another day quite soon. Since evening was approaching, he told Caspian to find something good to eat. After hanging up, Caspian received a quick mobile money transfer from his sweet mother. The attached note mentioned the spare ribs, and he accepted the cash without guilt. Driving out of the complex, he headed down the street toward Jiang University's bustling main gate. He suddenly noticed several good-looking students walking out together. On a whim, he parked his car diagonally right across from the entrance, rolled down the window to rest his arms comfortably against the door frame. Watching the young, energetic crowd outside somehow made him feel much better. By then, it was past 4. Liu had been watching groups of students pass by for 7 or 8 minutes, which brought back some fond memories of his own university days. Leaning out to watch from the window, a familiar voice suddenly called. Someone called out his name, Mr. Liu, making him quickly spin around in complete surprise. Standing right in front of his car was Orlia, freezing him in his tracks. He quickly pulled his arms back inside, calling this a massive coincidence. He asked why she was there, while Orlia explained she was actually just heading home. She had recognized his familiar license plate and wanted to confirm if it was actually him. Pointing at Jiang University, she explained she worked there, shocking him completely. He nearly choked on his own spit before nervously stammering that he understood she worked there. Hearing her sudden question about why he was hanging around, he felt incredibly awkward inside. He absolutely could not admit he was just checking out the handsome students. Instead, he quickly fabricated a story about his parents living nearby. He claimed the lively students looked so incredibly vibrant that he simply had to look. Orlia followed his gaze just as a miserable, sleep-deprived student walked past. She dryly muttered that she understood, while Liu nodded his head as fast as possible. Orlia stared at the gate and agreed they indeed looked very vibrant. Shifting focus, she asked if he was currently on his way to see them. He shook his head, explaining his parents went out, leaving him to cook for himself. Taking a breath, Liu asked if she would like to grab dinner together. She hesitated for a brief moment before agreeing, adding that her car was parked ahead. She promised to follow him shortly, but right at that moment, several young voices called out. A passing group of students suddenly waved and bid their professor a polite goodbye. He turned toward the window, only to realize those 3 students were looking right at him. Meeting their highly amused gazes made him feel incredibly self-conscious right then. Their bright eyes were filled with a very clear and teasing hint of pure mischief. Orlia simply waved back, while Liu quickly started up his car's engine. The persistent trio kept smiling and waving, forcing him to maintain his highly awkward grin. Before finally pulling away, he even caught those 3 students whispering and debating among themselves. They were playfully arguing about which of the 2 was actually better looking. He drove slowly, watching for her car to appear in his rearview mirror. Once she caught up, he picked up speed, his mind still racing with absolute embarrassment. He realized those students had definitely addressed her as their professor. Staring at the road ahead, he wondered if his ears were indeed playing tricks on him. Orlia looked to be around 26 years old, which was exactly his own age. His father reached that rank at 32, which was already considered genius level. Was Orlia simply incredibly overpowered, or was she actually a lot older than she looked? Tonight, Liu resolved to do some deep online research about young professors at the school. Surely, such shocking news would be heavily publicized by the university. Finding her profile would be easy. Soon, he arrived at a favorite Chinese restaurant. He always frequented this spot, loving their incredibly authentic sweet and sour pork spare ribs. After parking his car in a spot, he got out and waited patiently for Orlaya. Orlaya quickly parked nearby, got out, and took a brief look at the restaurant sign. He asked if she liked the place, and she agreed with a simple nod. They walked into the restaurant side by side. The waiter led the two of them to a. Seated by the window, they receive a tablet. Liu introduces the menu. He recommends the sweet and sour ribs and the twice-cooked pork. Saying they are both good, he taps them on the screen. After picking 4 dishes, he hands the tablet to Orlaya to choose. Orlaya quickly selects her favorites and sets the device back down. The waiter notes the order, asks them to wait, and leaves. Liu realizes that Orlaya is not pretentious, a complete minimalist. She simply gets things done without wasting breath. Curious, Liu decides to ask. He asks directly if people at the school gates really call her professor. Orlaya looks up, confirming she received the title just last year. Hearing this, Liu praises her. That kind of achievement totally blows his mind. The restaurant is packed for peak dinner hours, with crowds moving around. The atmosphere gets lively, and soon the waiter serves all their food. Liu encourages her to try the sweet and sour spare ribs first. Nodding, Orlaya picks up her chopsticks and grabs a small piece. After carefully tasting the meat, she nods softly and says it is not bad at all. He points to the next plate, urging her to try the twice-cooked pork. Orlaya reaches over and takes a bite of the pork as well. She nods again, finding it good. Getting her approval, Liu smiles happily. He agrees with her completely, then lowers his head to start eating seriously. They eat mostly in silence, only exchanging a few casual words. Orlaya is quiet, but she never lets the conversation feel dead. Because of that, sharing a meal together is not awkward at all. Once they finish, they both stand up and head to the front desk. Orlaya pulls out her phone to pay, but Liu quickly stops her. He chuckles, telling her to consider this a treat from his father. With that, he scans his payment code and completes the transaction. Outside, he notices Orlaya sigh and explains the situation to her. His parents ditched their dinner plans to go out with friends. Sending him money instead, since he had to eat, she kept him company. Then he thanks her again for the cake she gave him yesterday. Orlaya smiles warmly, thanking him in return for the lovely dinner. Liu is in a great mood now, his earlier stress completely gone. He checks the time and sees it is 7. He looks at Orlaya. He tells her to get home safely and rest. Orlaya nods in agreement. She tells him to drive safely, and Liu waves as he gets in his car. She watches him drive off, but wait, she suddenly gets a strange feeling. It felt like someone was watching them. She looks toward a nearby spot. A woman is standing there, looking surprisingly familiar to Orlaya. It looks exactly like the ex-girlfriend who argued with Mr. Liu at the cafe. Orlaya simply ignores her and drives off, while Serafina stands there looking furious. Serafina had arrived with a friend, only to spot Liu with another woman. Seeing them walk out of the restaurant together instantly sparks her jealousy. Even without intimate gestures, the sight makes her incredibly unhappy. She fumes, wondering why she never knew he had a friend like her. The friend standing nearby watched her, completely speechless, and asked how long. She was going to stand there staring. That was her soon-to-be husband. After all, since he was eating with another woman, she should just ask him. It was not like he would ignore her. Every word stung Serafina deeply. She snapped at her friend to shut up and mind her own business. The friend just shrugged with crossed arms. Serafina instantly grabbed her phone to make a quick call to Alora. She demanded to know if Caspian had been meeting other women lately, especially pretty ones. Alora could only snort in amusement. She told Serafina she was delusional. Caspian was busy and only ate with them. When he was not working at the shop, he was sleeping. There was no time. But Serafina cut her off, insisting she saw them. Alora sounded surprised by that. Eating with someone was normal. He could share a meal with whoever he wanted. It only mattered if they went home together, and Serafina had not seen that. Her expression softened slightly. Alora then asked who had made her so angry today. Alora joked that it was Serafina herself who was causing the trouble. After how Serafina had treated Caspian over that cup, holding back was hard. Yet Serafina had the nerve to ask. Still, Caspian eating with a woman was incredibly rare. Even so, Alora knew there was absolutely nothing going on. Their connection was entirely innocent, but at least it was enough to annoy Serafina. Serafina got instantly annoyed and snapped that she was hanging up now. As the call ended, Alora immediately fired off a quick text to Thatcher. She told him Serafina had caught Caspian having dinner with another woman. That would drive her crazy. Thatcher grinned and replied it served her right. He could easily imagine her furious expression. Meanwhile, Caspian headed home and showered. Just as he lay down in bed, a call flashed on his phone screen. It was an unknown number, but he instantly knew it was Serafina calling. He had absolutely nothing left to say to her. Endless arguments only brought exhausting silence and a cold heart. Answering her would only mean more torture. The phone rang repeatedly. Caspian did not pick up or decline the call. Instead, he sent Alora a text, asking her to tell Serafina to stop. He simply did not want to speak to her. He initially thought about asking Thatcher to handle it, but feared his friend might act too rashly. So Alora was the safer choice. She replied quickly, clearly finding the situation hilarious. She was likely calling to interrogate him about his dinner. Alora suggested letting her stay angry, which was fine by him. Caspian stared at the screen, wondering how Serafina even found out about it. He texted back to ask, and Alora admitted she did not know. But the question came around 7, so she probably crossed paths with them. That was exactly when Caspian and Miss Orlia had left the restaurant. She must have spotted them, if it was not for Serafina's intense pride, and the fact she wanted him to apologize first after their fight. She would have already stormed over to confront him. Caspian just told Alora to make her stop calling. Alora agreed to handle it. Closing the chat, Caspian prepared to set his phone down for the night and sleep, but suddenly he remembered something very important. Curious about Miss Orlia, Caspian pulled up the search bar and typed Jiang University. The moment he typed her last name, her full name appeared below, Orlia Shah. He clicked on it. Even with only a back view, he was completely sure. Caspian knew it was her. The school column featured her exclusive piece. She was the youngest professor in the Chinese literature department. Doing the math, she was 28 this year, still incredibly young. But scrolling through, he could not find a single clear front-facing photo. Just side shots and back profiles. Her info was pretty brief. It focused on her academic publications. Caspian softly murmured her name. Orlia, refined and elegant, just like the woman herself. Even though they had met multiple times, they had not exchanged names yet. They were just friends by chance. He locked his screen, putting it away. After reading her column, Caspian turned his phone on silent to avoid calls. Afraid of any late-night interruptions, he finally drifted off to sleep. Waking early the next morning, Caspian got up and prepared a delicate breakfast for himself. After finishing his meal, he headed straight over to the local coffee shop. He saw Thatcher waiting inside and took a seat right across from him. He wished Thatcher a good morning, and his friend slid a breakfast over. Thatcher admitted he expected Caspian to arrive at the shop even earlier. Even though Caspian had already eaten, he still took a few bites. Thatcher leaned forward seriously, resting both hands on the table. He mentioned that his parents went to a family gathering last night. Uncle Arthur brought up Caspian and Serafina getting their marriage certificate. Thatcher knew that Serafina's parents were incredibly fond of Caspian. Likewise, Caspian's parents absolutely adored Serafina, making this awkward. Hearing this, Caspian waved his hand. It was an uncomfortable topic. He muttered that it was Serafina's fault, so they could not blame him. He would explain if asked. Thatcher nodded, remembering something else. He mentioned arriving at 8 a.m., planning to sit at his usual spot. Thatcher pointed toward the corner table by the window. Caspian looked over. That was indeed his favorite seat. Thatcher went on with his story. Guess what? An incredibly stunning woman was sitting there holding a coffee. She looked absolutely breathtaking. Thatcher was not exaggerating at all. She had a highly intelligent face, total boss lady vibes. Yet she only stayed for 5 minutes before leaving, exactly 5 minutes. Hearing that description, Caspian immediately knew it was Miss Aurelia. Thatcher stared in utter shock, asking if they actually knew each other. Caspian nodded and briefly explained how they first ran into each other. Back when he ran out of Serafina's house, tripped, and lost his keys. He was incredibly desperate back then, and she was the one who saved the day. He offered to pay for her gas, but she politely refused the money. She probably saw his swollen face, felt sorry for him, and decided to help. Caspian paused, before adding that things got even more embarrassing later. One night, Serafina showed up at the coffee shop looking for him. They had a huge fight, he lost control of his emotions, and she saw it all. At this, Thatcher laughed out loud, teasing that they must really share some strange fate. Caspian sighed, admitting he had never looked so pathetic, and she saw it. Every single time. It was humiliating just thinking about it, but since it was just a chance encounter, it was fine. If she saw it, she would not gossip. Besides, Caspian had treated her to coffee and dinner, so she definitely would not say anything. Thatcher joked with him for a bit longer before saying he had to head to the company. Caspian stood up and saw Thatcher off to his car. Watching him drive away, Caspian finally went back inside to continue working. During lunch, his dad called, and Caspian casually picked up to hear his father ask if he was coming home for dinner, since he was making sweet and sour spare ribs while Mom made twice cooked pork. Would Caspian eat? The first thought that popped into Caspian's head was yes, but then he remembered how his parents brushed him off the day before, saying they would eat his share. The words reached his lips, but he swallowed them back, telling his dad he ate last night. He told them to enjoy it themselves, since he really did not need to eat. Hearing this, his old man laughed softly, pointing out that Caspian's stubbornness was just like his own. While Mom rolled her eyes, his dad asked again if Caspian was really not eating, noting he had bought the ingredients fresh that morning, but Caspian was just being stubborn, insisting he ate too much yesterday. His dad faked a sigh. He told Caspian to get back to work and prepared to hang up, pulling the phone away from his ear while loudly telling Mom that they would also roast steak tonight. Honestly, who could resist a tomahawk? Suddenly, Caspian's mouth was not stubborn anymore, and he weakly replied that he would eat, demanding they roast the steak. Tender, hearing him make demands, his parents were absolutely thrilled, telling him to come home so they could cook, while silently judging his own behavior. The smile on Caspian's face betrayed his excitement. He hung up and completely forgot about everything else, mostly because his parents' cooking sweet and sour spare ribs and twice cooked pork tasted too good. Even the restaurant from yesterday could not compare. It was basically a cheap imitation. At 4 p.m., he informed his staff and left to buy some fruit to bring along. Passing by Jiang University, he turned to look for a few seconds. His parents' home was very close to the campus. After parking, he carried the bag of fruit inside. The moment he walked in, the aroma of steak and sweet and sour ribs hit him. It was his absolute favorite. He walked into the kitchen, greeting his parents as Mom pointed at the sink, telling Caspian to wash his hands first. He readily agreed. Walking over to wash up under the faucet, after drying off, he helped carry the fresh dishes to the table. Mom and Dad were still busy in the kitchen, but soon everything was served, and the three of them sat down. Just as Caspian raised his chopsticks, his dad mentioned they had gone out yesterday, talking with Uncle Luo and the others about him and Serafina. They even mentioned the couple was getting their marriage certificate. Hearing this, Caspian froze, chopsticks in midair, as the whole ordeal suddenly rushed back. He weakly mumbled a response. Mom quickly followed up by asking if they had discussed when they would get the certificate. Dad was also quite. Evelyn happily tells him that young people do not need to pick some special, auspicious date. Once they get the certificate, they can plan the wedding with the Luo family. Hearing his parents discuss their marriage, Caspian looks up at them in silence. Both of their faces are filled with proud, satisfied smiles as they look at him. They love him marrying Serafina since they know her family so well. Having watched Serafina grow up from a child, they have no reason to doubt her. Seeing his strange, empty expression, his parents are startled and ask Caspian what is wrong. Caspian presses his lips tightly together, completely losing any appetite he had left. He puts down his chopsticks, lowers his head, and quietly admits that they broke up. Hearing those words, his parents freeze instantly before his mother, Evelyn, begins to frown. She asks if he initiated it, and Caspian nods, looking her in the eye. His mother's face immediately darkens, but his father quickly speaks up before she can yell. He says that minor arguments and tantrums are completely normal for young couples. Real relationships are built by working through these little bumps and grinds. He advises him not to act on momentary anger, or he will regret it later. Breaking up over trivial matters is unnecessary, his father says with a soft sigh. Caspian's throat feels dry, but he firmly replies that he will not regret his choice. His mother looks at him in disbelief, snapping that his stubbornness will not save him later. She cannot understand what could have possibly driven him and Serafina to this point. They grew up together, so how could a simple fight tear them apart so easily? What could she have possibly done to him that he is holding onto so stubbornly? She asks if Serafina's parents have ever been unkind to him, making his frustration grow. She demands to know what exactly makes him so dissatisfied with her. Caspian falls silent, prepared for their shock, but not this sudden wave of anger. Every single word they throw at him makes his heart tremble with deep pain. They do not even bother asking him what happened, only assuming he is at fault. He wonders if he is really just holding onto a tiny point, or if he deserves this. Memories of Serafina physically hitting him flash in his mind, making his blood boil. Yet his parents continue to praise her name at every single opportunity. When Caspian finally says aloud that she hit him, his parents freeze in pure shock. He explains that he accidentally broke a cup given to her by her ex-boyfriend. She lost her mind, laid hands on him, and physically assaulted him over it. She kept claiming that hitting him was a small matter, he just refused to let go. Forcing him to stay with her is not wishing him well, it is sending him to hell. Honestly, who could blame him for snapping when his own family pushes him this far? Caspian stands up, storms out of the house, and boards the elevator with tears in his eyes. He can still hear his parents desperately calling out his name from down the hall. His father stops his mother, saying Caspian needs space and they should not provoke him further. His mother bursts into tears, deeply regretting defending Serafina without knowing the truth. She beats herself up for not asking the simple question of why they split. Stricken with guilt, she demands to call the Luo family and ask how they raised their daughter. She immediately reaches for her phone, furious and ready to make a dramatic call. His father quickly stops her, realizing Caspian kept quiet precisely to avoid this kind of drama. He suggests calling their mutual friend, Thatcher, first to quietly get the full story. He dials Thatcher, asking if he knows what is going on with Caspian. Arthur called asking for a moment, and Thatcher was not surprised at all. "I am free, Uncle Arthur," he replied. "Go ahead and ask. Do you know the situation between Caspian and Serafina?" Yesterday, Thatcher's parents forced a smile at her name. Arthur thought nothing of it then. Now it mattered. Looking back, they clearly knew the truth. Thatcher finished, adding that Caspian had always loved her deeply. The painful breakup made him feel deeply hurt from the start. He has processed his pain quietly. Please do not scold him. You should not blame him. Nobody is hurting more. Arthur sighed deeply, and Thatcher understood the pain immediately. Thatcher promised to check on him, telling them not to worry. Arthur thanked him and hung up. His wife spoke immediately. My son will not suffer this injustice for nothing. With that, she grabbed her phone. She dialed Serafina's mother. Arthur understood the situation now. He was absolutely furious. He did not stop her. Meanwhile, Caspian exited the elevator. He opened his car door. He sat in the driver's seat. Pure bitterness, feeling wronged, and being misunderstood filled his heart. Why did this happen? He did absolutely nothing wrong. Yet everyone blamed him. Gripping the wheel, his hands trembled. Car horns blared around him. He ignored them completely. Suddenly, a soft double knock on his window broke the silence. He turned, a familiar face appeared. It was Aurelia. He stepped out of the car. Aurelia noticed his red eyes. She had never seen him so sad, looking ready to shatter completely. Afraid a breeze would blow him away, she stepped closer. She wrapped her long arms around him, offering a warm hug. His body stiffened, then he buried his face and sobbed. Aurelia felt a sharp, sudden pang of heartache for him. Her hands clenched. She slowly reached up to pat his back. But they were practically strangers. She hesitated and pulled back. They barely knew each other's names, so she let them drop. Suddenly he asked, Miss Aurelia, can you marry me? It was pure, impulsive revenge. Serafina thought he was helpless. Her parents kept dangling marriage and certificates, praising her constantly. Fine, he would just marry a different person instead. If his hug surprised her, his proposal absolutely shattered her. Aurelia stood frozen in complete disbelief for a long moment. Finally, she snapped out of it and pushed his hands away. Seeing his red eyes, she spoke softly but very solemnly. You cannot do this. You cannot casually marry a stranger. It is just a momentary impulse. His mind went blank. He only understood one thing. She was saying no. Nobody would marry a stranger, so he apologized and walked away. He stepped back, wanting to get in his car, but Aurelia grabbed hold of him. She silently sighed. How could he drive in this state? She would take him instead. To her, he seemed to say, since you are unwilling, never mind. He would just go ask some other strangers if they wanted to marry him. He thanked her and sat in the passenger seat. Aurelia glanced over at her car across the street, got into his driver's seat, and started the engine. She remembered the way to his place from when she brought his keys last time. It was not too far from the coffee shop. He slowly began to speak. His parents really liked Serafina. When they broke up, they never even asked why. They just assumed it was his fault. 10 years of history, ruined over a broken cup. A cup her ex had given her, she threw an absolute fit. He spoke softly. He just wanted to release the heavy knot in his chest. Bottling it up was suffocating. Aurelia quietly listened to every word, and honestly, who wouldn't feel for him? Her voice was calm, reminding him that revenge is no reason to marry. He needed to actually know who a person was before taking such a leap. Frankly speaking, marrying someone with completely different values is just a disaster. If he hanged himself, they would probably just think he was playing on a swing. He thought about her words and realized she was right. Soon, she parked the car. Outside the main gates, seeing how broken he looked, Aurelia hesitated. She offered to walk him up to his apartment. He quietly nodded. They went inside together. He kicked off his shoes and slumped onto the sofa, completely exhausted. He weakly thanked her for bringing him home. Aurelia looked down at his face. Seeing him close his eyes and drift off to sleep, her phone suddenly buzzed. She quickly pulled it out, answered the call, and stepped onto the balcony. A woman's voice immediately started questioning her from the other end of the line. wondering where Orlia had run off to since they were supposed to eat together. Orlia explained she was busy and told her friend to go ahead and eat alone. She mentioned her car was parked by the road and her friend could drive it. Before her friend could object, Orlia told her to send over the dinner bill. Her friend laughed and agreed to pick her up later that night. Hanging up, Orlia looked back at him resting on the couch, then stepped inside. She quietly walked into the kitchen, opened the fridge, and scanned the shelves. She grabbed some fresh vegetables and pulled a bag of ribs from the freezer. Slipping off her black trench coat, she was about to toss it on a chair. But seeing him sound asleep, she gently draped the warm coat over his shoulders. She rolled up her sleeves and went back to work. He slept for 20 minutes. He woke up to a delicious aroma, thinking Thatcher and Alora had arrived. He rubbed his sleepy eyes and walked toward the kitchen to check on them. Before his vision even cleared, he called out, only to realize his mistake. Rubbing his neck, he awkwardly asked if Orlia was the one cooking. Orlia was just finishing up, getting ready to make her quiet exit. She knew his parents had given him a hard time and he had not eaten. She wanted to feed him before leaving, not expecting him to wake up so early. She calmly told him the food was ready and she was heading out. He stared at the dishes, with the sweet and sour ribs taking center stage. A tangy aroma filled the air, prompting him to ask Orlia if she was going to eat. He turned around, finding Orlia in the middle of putting on her coat. Her gaze fell on Caspian as he headed into the kitchen to grab 2 pairs of chopsticks and bowls. Turning back to her, he gently announced it was time to eat. Orlia paused, her dark eyes tracking him as he neatly arranged the table. Only then did she finally step over to the dining table and speak up. She admitted she had just thrown together whatever was left in the fridge. He smiled and thanked her, saying he had wanted this exact dinner. Taking a piece of sweet and sour rib, Caspian realized the food tasted incredibly good. He could not help but praise her, calling her a pretty talented cook. Hearing this, the corners of Orlia's lips curved into a faint, barely noticeable smile. A rare sight indeed, maybe because he had shared his heavy thoughts with Orlia. The painful knot in his chest finally began to loosen up, although he previously had no appetite. He was suddenly starving, causing him to eat quite a bit faster. Orlia watched him from the side, observing how seriously he ate, feeling her gaze. He looked up, swallowed his mouthful of food, and blinked his dry eyes. Asking if he was eating too fast, Orlia simply shook her head and looked away. She quietly told him he looked much thinner than when they first met, urging him to eat. He softly agreed, nodding his head and promising to eat as much as he could. After all, he declared that Serafina did not deserve to make him miserable anymore. Seeing his dead serious expression, Orlia let out a soft laugh. By the end, he completely finished the entire plate of ribs she made, then placed the dishes into the dishwasher. When Caspian returned, Orlia had already finished wiping down the dining table and neatly repositioned the central vase. She even took a moment to carefully adjust its angle. He sincerely thanked Orlia for helping him prepare the meal. Gently drying her hands with a tissue, Orlia softly replied that he was very welcome. Then she looked up, letting him know that she would be heading out now. Caspian quietly nodded, telling her to be careful on her way home. He offered to escort her downstairs, but Orlia quickly stopped him. Insisting he rest, she walked to the entryway, but suddenly paused near the exit. Talk about a reality check. She turned around and warned Mr. Lu not to casually ask strange women if they want to get married. Caspian could only nod in awkward agreement. Orlia clearly had more on her mind, but hesitated, feeling it would be overstepping. Simply saying goodbye, she pulled open the door and stepped out. She closed it behind her, then took the elevator down to the lobby. Keeping her head low, she texted her friend an address to come pick her up. Just then, Thatcher and Alora brushed right past her, and Alora abruptly froze. She stared back at Orlia standing near the complex gates. Thatcher followed. Her gaze asking what she was looking at, Alora turned back and replied, She was just admiring a woman with an incredibly stunning figure. She had only caught a brief glimpse of her gorgeous side profile, but for a second she thought it was that stunning woman from the banquet. Thatcher had completely missed her, so he did not care. They pressed the button for the 9th floor and rang the doorbell. Thatcher wondered aloud if Caspian was even awake yet. Right as the words left his mouth, the door. Caspian pushed the door open to let his friends in, asking why they were visiting so late. Alora handed him a food box and teased that she was just worried he would starve. Caspian took it with a quick thank you, placing the box on the table despite the late hour. He poured them some water before sitting down as Thatcher asked him a gentle question. Thatcher mentioned that Caspian's father had called, feeling incredibly guilty after hearing the whole truth. Even his usually calm mother, Evelyn, broke down in tears upon learning Serafina had laid hands on him. Thatcher had never seen her so distraught, and Alora immediately chimed in to agree. Alora blamed Serafina completely, prompting Thatcher to laugh and ask if she knew. Alora shrugged indifferently, arguing that she was not gossiping to outsiders. Caspian chuckled softly. He did not blame his parents at all. He had just been in a terrible mood and let his emotions get the better of him. Hearing this, they felt relieved, as Thatcher noted it was already 7:30. Telling Caspian to eat, the boy waved it off, saying he finished eating 5 minutes ago. He had just cleared the table. Thatcher froze instantly. Thatcher stared at him, highly skeptical, wondering how Caspian could have possibly cooked anything. Even Alora felt something was off, and honestly, his excuses were pretty weak. She demanded to know who he ate with, leaving Caspian struggling to find an explanation. He explained that after running away, Miss Orlia had brought him back and cooked dinner. That single sentence immediately triggered a flood of endless questions from both of them. They wanted to know who Orlia was, why she brought him home, and why she cooked. Caspian looked at them seriously, explaining she was the girl who had returned his lost keys. He reminded them that they had even seen her at the coffee shop that morning. Realization struck Thatcher, who suddenly asked if they were actually getting close. Caspian shook his head, clarifying they were just casual friends made completely by chance. They had not even shared their names yet, let alone exchanged any contact information. Hearing this, Alora remembered Serafina saying Caspian was eating with a woman. She asked if that was her as well, and Caspian gave a quiet nod. Caspian confirmed it, explaining she had brought him some cake the previous day. He had run into her at the school gate and treated her to a thank-you dinner. Caspian recalled leaning against his car window to watch the pretty students outside the school. Suddenly, Orlia had appeared and caught him, leaving him completely red-faced and embarrassed. He had felt completely suffocated from the sheer embarrassment of being caught red-handed. Thatcher burst out laughing, eagerly asking what excuse Caspian came up with. Scratching his head, Caspian explained how he tried to spin the story positively. He told her he was admiring the vibrant students, right when a half-asleep girl walked out. Orlia had simply deadpanned, remarking on just how vibrant those students actually were. Now even Alora was laughing along, while Caspian could only stare at them deadpan. He grumbled that they were taking it too far, making Thatcher clear his throat. Thatcher took a deep breath, unable to hold back his laughter. Promising to stop laughing, they said goodbye as Caspian walked them downstairs. He watched them get in the car, waved goodbye, and then picked up his phone. Finding the familiar contact in his address book, he decided to call his parents. His mother picked up almost instantly, her voice filled with deep anxiety. She asked if he had eaten, immediately blaming herself for not listening to the whole story. This was the first time his mother had ever rushed to explain herself to him. He felt a bit flattered, assuring her he was just emotionally unstable back then. He explained that was why he ran out, but he was completely fine now. He already ate because Thatcher and Alora brought him food, which put his mom at ease. His mom repeated those words twice, her worries finally fading away. He hung up, put the phone aside, and just reflected. Before this, they only shared the title of lovers. Otherwise, everything between them was exactly the same as before. Exchanging simple gifts on holidays, never crossing any physical boundaries. It was a pure, innocent relationship, maybe even too pure. Honestly, you could barely even call it a real romance. She still treated him like a brother, even after they started dating. She took his kindness for granted, but their childhood friends knew the truth. They had all witnessed Serafina in her previous relationship with her ex. Back then, she wanted to be glued to that guy 24 hours a day. Thinking about that actually brought him a sudden wave of relief. Loving her was self-torture. By 10, he went asleep. Meanwhile, Orlia lay awake in her bed, tossing and turning with a restless mind. She kept replaying their entire meeting over and over in her head. It felt like a total coincidence, right, but deep down it was so much more. She could still picture his bloodshot eyes as he desperately asked her to marry him. She had almost said yes, even knowing it was just spoken in momentary anger. He clearly just wanted quick revenge against someone who had hurt him deeply. The more she thought about it, the more restless and agitated she became. A single crazy thought began to spread, completely dominating her mind. She had always lived by the book, but now she wanted to be reckless. Making that decision finally let her drift off, but a nightmare woke her within 3 hours. She got out of bed and snatched her household registration book. Outside, the rain was pouring down as she stepped out carrying her umbrella. Walking down the street, she figured Mr. Liu probably wouldn't even go out today. If they did not run into each other, she would accept it as fate. It would remain a mere chance encounter, nothing more than a passing memory. Her reckless impulse would finally fade away into the rainy morning. She stood downstairs waiting, losing track of time as endless thoughts raced. People walked past her without a second glance, ignoring her silent struggle. The storm showed absolutely no signs of slowing down, only getting heavier. Staring at the dark sky, it felt like a sign to let her reckless ideas go. Our main character had no plans of heading to the coffee shop that morning. But because he slept so early, he woke up energized and cooked a hearty breakfast. While his meal was baking in the oven, he decided to tidy up his room. He then grabbed the trash and headed downstairs, stepping into the elevator. That was when he realized he forgot his umbrella, but he did not turn back. It was just a quick run outside, and a little rain never hurt anyone. He stepped outside, but his feet instantly froze after taking just a few paces. He would never forget this striking visual for the rest of his life. There stood Orlia holding a black umbrella, looking completely breathtaking in the heavy rain. She looked so lonely, standing in the rain. Caspian quickly ran out. He called her name. Orlia looked up, quietly watching him approach. He was completely drenched. Still, he smiled and waved at her. He stepped into the cold downpour. "Why are you here?" he asked. Seeing her there left him incredibly confused. Why did she come? Right outside his door so early in the morning, was something wrong? Did his sudden marriage proposal yesterday make her uncomfortable? Maybe she worried he was still overthinking things, prompting this early morning visit. If so, she was truly a good person, an incredibly kind soul. "It's freezing outside," he said. "Let us head upstairs first." She quietly followed him inside. Once in the elevator, she finally spoke. "I came to see you," she whispered, just as the doors opened. They set their wet umbrellas aside and stepped into the warm apartment. "Thank you for coming," Caspian said, assuring her he was fine. He felt incredibly moved by her sweet gesture. Quickly, he grabbed a dry towel. He handed it to Orlia, urging her to dry off quickly. He had made plenty of breakfast, warmly inviting her to join him. With that, he brought out baked side dishes from the kitchen oven. He also served 2 hot bowls of fresh wontons on the table. Orlia looked over the pan-fried wontons, flatbread, and fresh fruit. Caspian announced it was time to eat, handing over her utensils with a smile. She accepted them with a soft thank you, and he smiled back. He smiled, insisting he should be the grateful one for her early morning visit. Orlia pointed out that he was the one who came downstairs first. Caspian was confused. What if he had not gone down to throw trash? Would she have just waited in the cold rain? Orlia simply nodded. He smiled. He was fine now, admitting yesterday was just pure impulse. She was right. He wanted to change his rebellious nature. Hearing this, Orlia gave a slight, approving nod of her head. Then she properly introduced herself, Orlia Shia from Yan'an City. A 28-year-old professor, though she usually just claimed to be a teacher. Using her full title showed she was taking this very seriously. Caspian smiled. I already know who you are, he said. Orlia looked up, surprised. How did he know her? Jiang University's youngest literature professor. He had read all about her. He praised her achievements, calling her a true, certified genius. Skipping grades and guaranteed admissions seemed almost trivial for her. Orlia laughed softly, quite amused by his dramatic praise. Knowing this, Caspian decided it was his turn to properly introduce himself. He was Caspian Liu, 26, and owned a local coffee shop. Orlia silently repeated his name in her heart, letting it sink in. Breakfast ended, they sat together, chatting comfortably for a little while. Looking at her dress, Caspian curiously asked if she was heading out. Orlia bypassed the question, silently clearing the dirty table. She calmly asked him if she should carry everything into the kitchen. He tells her there is no need, quickly clearing away the bowls and chopsticks. Orlia has to get up and wipe down the table. When he returns, the dining room already looks spotless. He thanks her and brings out some fresh lemon water he prepared that morning, pouring a cold glass for Orlia. Her soft voice carries a faint apology, saying she is sorry for bothering him. Ever since she arrived, he has been moving nonstop, making her feel like a burden. Liu just shakes his head, saying no trouble at all, since he usually does this when home alone. Still, Orlia seems rather hesitant. She asks if he is clear-headed and rational today. Such an out-of-the-blue question, pretty abrupt, but he figures she is just showing her care. Besides, Miss Orlia seems quite restrained today, as if she is quietly holding something big back. Liu looks at her with a reassuring smile, nodding that of course he is, especially after her kind words yesterday and her home-cooked meal, plus his friends visiting. Last night, after calling his parents, everything finally cleared up in his mind. He promises not to waste tears on people who are not worth it anymore. Hearing this answer, Orlia finally relaxes. Her gaze locks onto his remarkably handsome, sharp face, suddenly asking if Mr. Liu will marry her, the exact question he asked her yesterday has been echoing in Orlia's mind all night. Liu's hand holding the glass freezes instantly, staring blankly at her. She finds his shocked reaction completely normal, her gentle voice slowing down. He does not need to rush an answer, as she might just be acting on impulse herself, but she only wants his decision while he is fully rational and clear-headed. Any questions he wants to ask, he can take all the time he needs to get an honest answer. Liu slowly snaps back to reality, staring at her with a deeply confused, probing look. All that time standing downstairs in the heavy rain, just waiting for him early this morning. It was all just to ask this one shocking proposal. Truly unbelievable. Staring right at her, he simply asks why. Orlia lets out deep sigh. Having such strong feelings for someone she has barely met a few times is pretty bizarre to her. Still, the bold proposal he offered her yesterday kept her awake, thinking for almost the entire night. Perhaps, she notes, her life has been far too flat and quiet lately, making her act rather impulsively. When he asks why she did not come upstairs, she explains they started as a simple chance encounter. If she had not waited to see him, they would have just faded back into strangers. She speaks unhurriedly, laying out every single thought slowly, detailing her perspective. Quite surprised, he asks if she actually needs this marriage. Orlia shakes her head, her voice clear and smooth. She only invests in her own genuine feelings, nothing else. without the impulsive drive for revenge he felt. Yesterday, his heart, normally as still and quiet as autumn water, is suddenly stirred up by Orlia's simple words. For a moment, he is entirely speechless. Orlia does not feel awkward at all. She expected a 50% chance of failure. Anyway, since he has not flatly rejected her yet, she decides to keep laying out her cards. Aside from her personal reasons to marry him, she mentions she has both a house and a car. When she starts breaking down her personal savings, he lets out a sudden laugh. Honestly, she is being way too honest right now, he tells her. Orlia's eyebrows lift slightly as she nods. She lives alone and her life is simple. If they marry and have kids in the future, her busy schedule can easily be temporarily put on hold. Hearing this in silence, his heart felt quite chaotic. He promised himself he wouldn't act on impulse anymore, but then he hesitated. Getting married to the woman standing right in front of him didn't sound so bad. It would solve everything. Besides, he knew his own heart all too well. He couldn't move on from his last relationship that fast, fearing he would forget. He dreaded running back to Serafina. A voice inside was practically screaming at him. Tell her yes, the voice urged. Do not leave any escape route. Without knowing where the courage came from, he agreed. Orlia was stunned. She was completely taken aback for a second. Seeing this, he cleared his throat. Are you going to lecture me again about casually marrying a complete stranger? He asked teasingly. Hearing this, Orlia's lips curled into a gentle smile. Today she felt he should lecture her, since she lost that right last night. He set his glass down, asking her if they were getting registered today. Getting registered, saying those words out loud felt absolutely surreal. It felt like an entire lifetime had passed, just a short while ago. He was planning this very moment with someone else. Talk about an insane twist. Everything had changed so fast. Orlia had prepared everything before leaving her house. She mentioned she brought her ID and registration book. He nodded, heading inside. He told her to wait a moment while he picked out a decent outfit. He had never been this reckless, determined to burn all his bridges today. Sure, they could have dated first, but he was honestly too tired for that. It was time to go big or go home. After changing, he stepped out. He asked her to wait just a bit longer for one last item. With that, he quickly rushed back inside. Orlia stood up and began tidying up. She swept the floor and cleared the table, waiting patiently for him to return. The moment he walked back out, Orlia froze in her tracks. Her eyes locked onto him. In that sleek formal suit, he looked incredibly sharp. The fit was perfect. Adjusting his sleeves, he stepped closer. Standing directly before her, he gently asked if she was ready. Meeting his gaze, Orlia softly complimented how handsome he looked. He smiled, tightly clutching his household registration book. Before this, his parents had kept it, but when they heard about his plans with Serafina, they gave it to him, hoping for a happy surprise. Instead, things with Serafina fell apart completely. He never expected to use it now. But hey, life works in mysterious ways. Let us head out, he said, changing his shoes. They stepped outside together. Orlia felt her earlier compliment had been too plain. She realized her quick response had been a bit too casual. In truth, she thought he looked incredibly elegant, gentle as fine jade. Why did her brain freeze up, making her just blurt out very handsome? She silently scolded herself. Bending down, she reached for her umbrella. He quickly took it from her hand, offering to carry it instead. They stepped into the elevator. Inside, his hand gently brushed against hers. As they walked out, he naturally reached down and held her hand. Her fingers felt a little cold to his touch, but incredibly soft. Stepping outside, they noticed the rain had finally stopped, a pleasant little surprise. He walked outside to find his car parked nearby, and she sat waiting in the passenger seat. She saw his household registration booklet on the console. During their silent drive to the registry office, his mind stayed perfectly calm. He parked right out front of the building, looking seriously at Orlia. Did she really not have any regrets? She paused, That was her question to ask. But she followed his lead. No regrets, she replied, following her own deepest thoughts. Skipping this would have left her with years of bitter pain. They had to try. She refused to live with any future regrets. Her bold words cleared his head. Every single drop of doubt vanished. Just as she went to push the car door open, he grabbed her arm. She looked back, totally confused. He pulled out a small ring box from the back seat, confessing he did not know her taste, if she disliked it. They would swap them later. He opened the box, revealing two stunning rings, easily over 1 carat. The 3-layer design was gorgeous. He had bought this box a long time ago. Marriage deserved real ceremonies. If Orlia disliked them, they would simply exchange them. Her beautiful eyes lit up instantly with a soft, bright warmth. She gently took one beautiful ring out and slid it right onto his finger. Then, they placed the rings on each other, standing right before the registry office. It was her turn to warn him. There was no going back once they entered. He just squeezed her hand, leading her straight through the front doors. Inside, he was completely calm, but once the red stamps dried on paper, and they walked out with the booklets, his composure totally vanished. Now look at him standing frozen outside, staring at the bright red cover. Completely speechless, his legs felt weak. Orlia asked if he was okay. She watched him freeze. For a second, she did not suspect any regret. After all, when they walked inside just moments ago, he had seemed completely fearless. He stared silently at Orlia. 10 short minutes had flown by like a dream, and now he was married. Luckily, his new bride was exceptionally gorgeous. She had that sleek, powerful boss lady vibe, growing even prettier by the second. Orlia paused, asking if he regretted it. He took a few deep breaths to calm his racing nerves, but his chest still hammered wildly. Getting this certificate so suddenly was crazy. What would his parents say? And her parents, Orlia chuckled, offering to visit his family today. He frantically held her back, insisting they keep this a secret. He honestly had no idea how to explain this to his family right now. Plus, they had just resolved their fight. If they found out about this sudden marriage to a stranger, they would assume it was a spiteful impulse. They would drown in guilt, believing their pressure drove him to do it. Worse, they might resent Orlia. She still felt highly uneasy. Keeping secrets felt wrong, so he quickly changed the subject instead. Did her parents know? He asked if he should go meet them. Orlia shook her head, explaining they were clueless, but she would handle it. Only after signing did he realize how many details they had completely skipped. They had really jumped the gun. He asked her earnestly if he suddenly worries about her parents. Will they hate him right off the bat? Adding family drama on top of everything would just be one giant, painful headache. Orlia smiles softly to comfort him, promising that they will absolutely adore him. Apparently, they have been dropping hints for months, practically begging her to find a boyfriend. Now that she is officially married to someone she likes, her family will be thrilled. Hearing those comforting words, he immediately breathes a massive sigh of relief. She simply nods, telling him to relax as they head out. Once they get in the car, he hesitates for a couple of seconds. He nervously asks if she would just move in with him. His apartment is in a great location, making her commute incredibly easy. It is not a far drive at all, so he eagerly asks her to consider it. Looking over expectantly, he finds Orlia has absolutely no intention of turning him down. She happily agrees to pack her things, letting him relax as he explains his reasoning. He admits he does not plan on telling his parents about their marriage just yet. Afraid they will notice something is off, he gets a reassuring nod from her. To her, where they live is a minor detail, so she accepts his invitation easily. Now, he is right back to agonizing over what married couples should do. Honestly, who knew addressing your new wife could be this insanely stressful? Calling her Miss Orlia sounds cold, but using her full name feels too rude. Just her first name seems too intimate for their current boundary. It is so frustrating. He decides to drop it for now as they head over to pack her things. After loading everything up, they finally stop at a local restaurant to grab food. By then it is already 11:30. She quietly asks if he is hiding her. He quickly shakes his head in panic, desperate to correct that painful misunderstanding. He explains his friends can know, but he just needs a couple of days. He promises they will go visit them together soon, asking if she is okay waiting. She simply nods. Even if this was sudden, she genuinely wants a future together. Hearing her say she wants a lifetime commitment makes him nod in agreement. Even if they are still strangers, he does not take marriage lightly either. He treats marriage seriously, which finally puts her completely at ease. Once they finish lunch, they head to the mall to do some serious shopping. He is totally confused when Orlia starts picking out gifts for his family. She calmly explains it is better to be prepared since a meeting is inevitable. Suddenly, a wave of deep guilt washes over his entire chest. Let's be real, she is trying so hard, yet he's still keeping her a complete secret. Keeping her hidden from his family feels like a massive disservice to her. So he decides to buy nice gifts for her parents as well, just in case. Even if their meeting date is unknown, he copies her high-quality gift choices. But to his absolute shock, Orlia is the one who ends up paying. He feels completely defeated, but Orlia just smiles at his stubborn, boyish pride. She gently reminds him they are married now, so their money is shared anyway. He softly grumbles that it is definitely not the same. She looks down with a smile, not quite catching his quiet complaints. It takes them 2 entire trips just to haul all their bags back upstairs. Walking around all day has left both of them completely and utterly exhausted. Caspian's entire body was aching by afternoon. Once back, he collapsed onto the sofa. He honestly didn't care about maintaining his perfect image anymore. Seeing her drag her heavy suitcase, he quickly got right up to assist her. They headed to the closet, where he offered her half of the space. His clothes were on the left, leaving the right side completely for her. As she began unpacking, the doorbell suddenly cut through the quiet house. Knowing how supportive she had been, hiding her away felt totally wrong. So he suggested she open the door, thinking it might be his friend Thatcher. Hearing his words, a soft smile tugged at her lips. He didn't want to hide her, which secretly made her incredibly happy. She quickly set her clothes aside and eagerly headed over to answer the door. She wondered about Thatcher, the friend Caspian had mentioned before. It seemed they were close friends, given how easily Caspian brought him up. But the moment she opened the door, 6 eyes met, pure, heavy silence. The visitors standing on the threshold were not his young friends at all. By their appearance and age, they could only be Caspian's actual parents. It was clear where Caspian got his incredibly handsome looks from. His parents stood there holding food boxes, staring in complete shock. Realizing a stranger answered, they took a step back to check the house number. His mother muttered in confusion that this was definitely the right place. His father asked who she was, prompting Orlia to step aside. She politely wished his mother and father a very warm good evening. Addressing them as parents instantly threw the 2 elders into complete shock. She quietly congratulated herself for buying those lovely gifts earlier that afternoon. Otherwise, this unexpected first meeting would have been unbelievably awkward. Deep down, she felt thrilled to finally meet her new parents-in-law. This meant she was now officially recognized as his legitimate wife. Stepping inside, the parents recognized the decor and knew they had the right home. Orlia quickly poured fresh hot tea for her new father and mother-in-law. Her warm hospitality left the 2 elders feeling completely and utterly stunned. They were about to ask her name when Caspian called out from behind. Having changed into comfortable clothes, he walked straight into the living room. But seeing the guests, Caspian froze, and honestly, who could blame him? It was not his buddy Thatcher. His actual parents had arrived instead. His father looked at Orlia, asking if Caspian had a friend over. The older man seemed pretty pleased with the young lady standing before them. She looked like an elegant, well-mannered woman from an honorable family. However, after his experiences with Serafina, he knew better than to judge by looks. Good character was what truly mattered. Looks were completely useless. Caspian forced a strained smile and walked over to greet them. His mother smiled warmly, gently tapping the food containers on the table. She explained that since he missed their cooking yesterday, they wanted to surprise him. Caspian sat down right beside Orlia and softly thanked his sweet parents. His father smiled, asking if she was their son's close friend. He warmly invited her to stay for dinner, making Caspian take a deep breath. Caspian speaks up, explaining she isn't just a friend. His parents look at Orlia, completely puzzled. Orlia steps in to introduce herself, politely calling them Mom and Dad right away. She says her name is Orlia Shah, 28 years old, and a university professor from Yan'an. Hearing this, Caspian's mom instantly understands. She must be his pursuer. But she cannot just call them Mom and Dad on their very first meeting. That violates protocol, but when Caspian's dad hears her name, he suddenly remembers something. He had actually discussed her with some other teachers. She was quite famous. The youngest professor next door in the Jiang University Chinese Literature Department. He had even praised her before, calling the younger generation formidable. Caspian keeps his head down, quietly dropping a bomb. She is actually his wife. Talk about a plot twist. His parents snap their heads in absolute shock. What did you say? His mom stammers, suddenly becoming extremely anxious. Did her harsh words yesterday drive him to act on impulse without thinking straight? She blames herself, telling him to just direct all his anger at her. Caspian quickly waves his hands, looking at his mom to calm her down. He assures his mom that this was not a rash, thoughtless decision at all. Besides, she has a pretty decent job, hardly someone chosen on a whim. He originally wanted to keep it secret to avoid worrying them, but Orlia insisted. She bought a ton of gifts, just waiting for his permission to visit them. Hearing this, Caspian's mom hesitates, her gaze shifting to the young woman sitting opposite. Her anxiety ultimately turns into a soft sigh. She had highly valued Serafina back then. And look how that turned out. If it is rushed, then so be it. Dating for a long time guarantees nothing. True suitability is what actually matters. Who knows, maybe he stumbled upon the right one. Evelyn scrutinizes Orlia closely. Caspian has a great point. She is highly accomplished and practically perfect. How could anyone call this a reckless mistake? Relieved, his mom suggests they eat. She gets up to plate the food, but the interrogation begins during dinner. They ask Orlia if her own family knows she is marrying Caspian. Orlia looks slightly apologetic, admitting she does not live with them and hasn't told them. This was certainly against protocol, but she quickly offers a respectful solution. She suggests both families sit down for a warm meal together soon. Her humble attitude smooths things over perfectly, leaving absolutely nothing to complain about. His parents nod, agreeing to see what her family says once a time is arranged. Orlia politely agrees, but then Caspian's parents press with another question. They ask what her parents do for a living, wanting to know her background. Since Orlia is so outstanding, her family must be quite impressive too. Still, they need to understand her background before becoming in-laws. Orlia pauses in silence for a brief second before offering an answer. She claims they ran a small business and are now semi-retired. His parents do not press further. Once dinner is over, they head home. Both of them are incredibly pleased with Orlia's proactive and respectful attitude. And just like that, they have completely tossed Serafina out of their minds. After seeing his parents out, Orlia turns to Caspian beside her. She softly asks if she did okay, making Caspian laugh out loud. He reassures her that his parents are already completely overjoyed. He says that is fine. When Orlia steps out after her shower, Caspian looks up. He freezes completely. Orlia is fresh out of the bathroom. Her face is flushed from the steam. He has never seen this side of her. He cannot help but stare. Right then, Orlia catches him looking. She touches her cheek, confused. Caspian just smiles at her. He admits she looks beautiful, making her face heat up instantly. Flustered, she quickly turns around and runs straight into the bedroom. "Hurry up and shower," she yells out, quickly kicking off her slippers. She climbs into bed, lying completely flat and letting out a sigh. She stares at the empty side, wondering if they must sleep together. She has never shared a bed with a guy before. What will Caspian expect? It would not be out of line. After all, she is 28. It is not impossible, but they have no real emotional foundation. Is this just a legal one-night stand? She cannot stop overthinking. Just then, Caspian exits the bathroom and sits right on the edge of the bed. Orlia pulls the blanket up. Caspian lifts his side and gets in next to her. She freezes up completely, looking like a helpless little lamb waiting to be eaten. Those beautiful eyes lock onto him. She mentions telling her parents about them. They registered. Caspian nods, asking when they should visit them. Orlia thinks about it, suggesting they head over tomorrow afternoon. Before her morning classes, she wants to see his parents. That way, she can pay her respects to his parents early on. Caspian smiles warmly, knowing his parents will be absolutely thrilled. His parents watched his ex, Serafina, grow up, but she never really cared. She only ever visited his parents during major holidays. Even when they were together, she never took them seriously. She treated them like strangers, but Orlia is a breath of fresh air. His parents will definitely fall in love with Orlia very quickly. He offers to go along, watching her eyes spark. He feels incredibly satisfied with his impulsive choice. His swift decision paid off. Orlia admits she does not know the way. Caspian smiles. He tells her they should sleep early. Orlia clicks off the light, plunging the bedroom into darkness. They lie flat. The bed is small, keeping him right on the edge. Caspian apologizes, explaining that he usually sleeps alone in his own bed. The bed is tight, so Orlia tries to scoot left to give him room. But talk about a surprise, she is suddenly pulled into a warm hug. Caspian holds her close, gently stroking her tense shoulders. He gently tells her to relax, promising he will not do anything tonight. After a long silence, Orlia whispers weakly, asking if he is serious. Caspian promises to wait for her, knowing they still need some time. Just sharing this bed with him is already a huge step for her. Now that they are legally married, she does not seem like the type to run. Still, he wants her to take the lead so she will never have regrets. Tranquility returns. She lies quietly, processing this new warmth. Orlia has almost never shared her bed with another person before. Her mind refuses to quiet down, not for a very long time. But hearing his soft breathing beside her finally brings peace. She drifts off. Waking up at 6 the next morning, Orlia just lies there in bed, completely dazed. Last night she got 8 hours of deep sleep, a real miracle. She looks over at her brand new husband, sleeping peacefully right next to her. Honestly, she does not know if it is extreme exhaustion or his comforting presence. Either way, when Caspian finally wakes up, her side of the bed is already empty. In the kitchen, Orlia is already busy. She is cooking up breakfast. As he walks in, she is bringing the plates to the table. She smiles, telling him he is up early, and bids him sit. Telling him to sit down and eat, she turns back to grab some chopsticks. Caspian is stunned, truly. He has never seen her smile so brightly. Her usual smiles are always faint and reserved, nothing like this dazzling look. Orlia sits down, hands him his chopsticks, and they begin their meal. He asks curiously if she is exceptionally happy today. She looks up. She thanks him, explaining she actually got 8 solid hours of sleep. Hearing this, Caspian feels a pang of sympathy. Her stress was way too high. After finishing breakfast, they pack up and get ready to head out. They stop at a shop to buy some seasonal fruits and gifts. Even with yesterday's gifts, proper etiquette for a first formal visit is key. Arriving at his parents' apartment complex, they make it there by 7:30. Walking through the gates, they spot a neighbor doing her exercises. Downstairs, neighbor Mrs. Higgins is doing her morning exercises, very active. She stares at Oralia, immediately asking Caspian who this beautiful woman is. Caspian smiles, greeting her warmly, and proudly introduces his new wife. Mrs. Higgins freezes. Wait, this is definitely not his usual girlfriend. Oralia politely steps in and wishes the old neighbor a good morning. Just like that, the neighbor completely tosses the ex-girlfriend from her mind. She beams at Oralia, completely won over by her incredible grace and charm. Praising Caspian's great taste, she says his parents will be absolutely thrilled. Urging them forward, she tells them to head right on upstairs. Caspian waves goodbye to the neighbor and quickly heads upstairs with Oralia. Inside the elevator, Caspian cannot hold it in. He bursts out laughing. He teases her, saying she is quite a natural at winning people over. Compared to his ex Serafina, Oralia is just so much more attentive. Oralia curls her lips in amusement, asking if that was a compliment. He grins and confirms it, but then they arrive at the door. Normally, he would just use the passcode, but proper motions are needed. He rings the bell instead, and a voice inside calls out. The door opens, and Caspian's dad stands frozen on the threshold. Oralia immediately smiles and greets them warmly as mom and dad. His dad steps aside with a massive grin, calling out to his wife. Suddenly, his mom drops whatever she is holding and comes running to the door. She is absolutely thrilled to see them so early and urges them inside. The mother-in-law smiles, asking why Oralia brought even more gifts after yesterday's visit. Oralia simply smiles, saying she couldn't possibly show up empty-handed. Pouring her a fresh cup of tea, the mother asks if she had breakfast yet. The husband chimed in quickly, explaining that they already ate before arriving. His mother laughs, saying they ate too and were just about to head out. Not wanting to delay her new in-laws, Oralia jumps into the conversation. She tells them she has morning classes and needs to get going soon. The parents nod eagerly, promising they will all share a proper meal next time. After a brief chat, the four of them slowly head downstairs together. He watches his parents' car drive away, a warm smile on his face. Checking his watch, he points out it is past 8 and she should probably go. Oralia checks her phone, her expression calm as she confirms the time. She casually bids him goodbye, telling him to drive safe on his way. After parting ways, he heads to his coffee shop, grabbing some chocolates along the way. He wanted to share them with his staff, whom he treated like close friends. One of the employees eagerly asks why the boss skipped work yesterday. With a grin, he reveals he was busy getting his marriage certificate. A staff member freezes, a chocolate halted right at her lips. She gasps in disbelief. Are those actually wedding candies? He proudly nods with a smile. He calls it a little marriage perk, sending a wave of excitement through them. Wait, is he actually serious, or is the boss just messing with them? Either way, everyone naturally assumes he must be marrying the gorgeous Serafina. He tosses another chocolate over, assuring them his marriage is very real. Catching it, the employee offers his congrats, but then sighs deeply. Puzzled by the sudden gloom, the boss asks what is wrong. Another worker chuckles, explaining that a gorgeous regular usually visits around this time. But since it is past 8 and she has not shown, he is thoroughly disappointed. The boss coughs, teasingly promising to make her stay next time so they can admire her. He pats the employee on the back. Meanwhile, Oralia wraps up her morning classes. It is already 11:30 when she finally sits down in her office to rest. Just then, Beatrix, her colleague from the same department, walks into the room. Suddenly, a bright glint of light catches Beatrix's eye, drawing her attention. She turns to see Oralia massaging her temples as the sunlight hits her hand. A sparkling ring on her left hand practically blinds her, prompting a quick investigation. Approaching with a smirk, Beatrix asks what is going on with that ring. She teases her, asking why she is playing dress-up like a teenager. Since they were old college classmates, they dropped the formal professor titles in private. Orlia opens her eyes, calmly glancing down at the wedding band on her finger. Curiously, Beatrix reaches out, eager to slide it off and try it on. She begs for a turn with the gorgeous jewelry, but Orlia quietly pulls her hand away. Hands off, Orlia calmly explains that this is her actual wedding ring. Beatrix freezes in absolute disbelief. Married? When on earth did that happen? She stares intensely, knowing her quiet colleague never jokes about these things. After years of working side by side, how could she have no clue? She racks her brain, desperately trying to solve this sudden mystery. That ring was definitely put on recently, since she got her certificate only yesterday. Orlia's lips curled into a tiny, subtle smile as she promised a free dinner. Beatrix stood there completely stunned, remembering how they promised to stay single together. Instead, her best friend had secretly gone and gotten married behind her back. Beatrix joked about writing a whole classical essay just to curse her out. Orlia casually told her to go ahead and show off her writing skills. Beatrix was dying to meet the mystery husband this afternoon. She suggested they grab dinner today so she could finally meet the guy. Orlia looked down and checked the time, seeing it was already 11:40. She realized she could grab lunch with Caspian and instinctively pulled out her phone. But as she opened her contacts, her finger froze and she fell silent. She wanted to secure everything, but totally forgot to get his contact info. Orlia helplessly rubbed her forehead, making Beatrix ask what was wrong. She could only cough to cover her embarrassment and make an excuse. Claiming she had to visit her parents, she quickly packed up her desk. Grabbing her briefcase, she left the office, leaving a shocked Beatrix behind. Her friend was still reeling from the shock of this secret marriage. Meanwhile, Orlia drove her car straight over to the local coffee shop. Honestly, what kind of newlyweds do not even have each other's numbers? They really felt like a rented couple as she parked outside the shop. Stepping inside, the staff members were completely shocked to see her there. It was the first time this beauty had ever visited outside of her usual morning routine. Orlia felt too awkward to directly ask them about Caspian Liu. Instead, she ordered a coffee first and casually asked if their boss was around. Silence hung in the air for a moment before an employee finally answered. He explained their boss went home 5 minutes ago and she thanked them. Another staff member teased that their boss just got married, making her smile. She replied that she knew, accepting her coffee as they kept chatting. The worker grabbed a piece of chocolate the boss had bought that morning. Offering it to her, they called it a wedding perk from the boss. Orlia smiled, took the treat, and thanked them for the kind gesture. She figured she should bring some wedding candy of her own next time. With that, she turned and left, leaving the staff gossiping behind her. They were already cooking up a massive romantic drama in their heads. To them, this elegant beauty seemed way better than someone like Serafina. When Orlia returned home, Caspian was just changing his shoes, looking quite confused. He asked why she returned, prompting her to give an awkward smile. She admitted she wanted to grab lunch, making him look up in confusion. Caspian asked why she did not just call, suddenly cutting himself off. He realized they did not even have each other's numbers, and laughed dryly. Laughing at their absurd situation, Orlia pulled out her phone to ask. Caspian recited his number out loud, and she immediately saved the contact. She gave him a ring, and he saved her number as Orlia. Orlia tapped her screen, sending him a friend request right after. He accepted, officially adding her across all their messaging apps. Orlia asked if he wanted to grab some lunch, and Caspian nodded, telling her he needed to change. Visiting her parents early that afternoon was crucial, since being late looked bad. 15 minutes later, Caspian finished getting ready and stepped out of the room. He walked over to Orlia and asked if he looked okay, and she nodded. Honestly, anything was fine since her parents would never judge him. As long as she was happy, it was good, and she saw his genuine effort. Once they got into the car, Orlaya asked what he wanted for lunch. He waved his hand and told her to choose whatever she liked. Orlaya picked a restaurant with a great vibe, and they quickly ordered. She glanced to the side, and Caspian froze when he saw Alana sitting right there. Sitting opposite her was Serafina, and Alana looked up with a surprised stare. Alana stared toward their table for a moment, prompting Serafina to ask in a cold voice. Serafina demanded to know what she was looking at, so Alana quickly blocked her view. Trying to act calm, she hurriedly poured a drink to distract her friend. After claiming it was nothing, Alana told her to drink, leaving Serafina deeply puzzled. She was just telling her to drink less, but now she hurriedly told her to eat. Her eyes lingered on Caspian with a twitching brow, which Orlaya saw. Orlaya recognized Serafina, the woman who had argued with him, and the friend opposite her. Softly, she asked if he was okay, but Caspian just shook his head. Caspian said it did not matter, but Orlaya actually had her own selfish reasons. She had seen Serafina earlier, but pretended not to notice as they walked in. Since they were married, she wanted to stand openly and proudly beside him. Caspian quietly introduced them, explaining that the woman opposite Serafina was Alana. Along with another friend, they were all 2 years older and very close to him. With a quick nod, Orlaya promised to remember his close friends. Caspian added that he had not told his friends about their marriage yet. He wanted to grab dinner with them soon, and Orlaya smiled, offering to treat. Smiling back, he told her that if she treated, he would gladly pay. Just then, the waiter brought their dishes, and Caspian placed some fish in her bowl. He told her to eat, while Alana currently had absolutely no appetite. Her mind had completely drifted over to Caspian and Orlaya's table. She guessed the gorgeous woman was the Orlaya he had mentioned before. Watching him put food in Orlaya's bowl, Alana could only sigh to herself. She figured they were just putting on a show, mostly because of his usual attitude. If she were just a regular female friend, Caspian would never act this sweet. He would never smile and serve food to anyone else, so this had to be acting. And yet, she had to admit they were playing their parts perfectly. Alana let out a quiet laugh, knowing Serafina would absolutely lose her mind. Hearing her laugh, Serafina frowned, forcing Alana to quickly cough it off. Serafina let out a sigh and asked what Alana had just said. Apparently, her parents had called her about her and Caspian. Alana turned serious, warning Serafina that she did not want to ruin her hopes. But if her parents knew, then Caspian's parents, Uncle Lu and Auntie Shen, did too. This meant she and Caspian had absolutely no chance together. Serafina sighed, explaining she had called Uncle Lu and even visited last night, but nobody answered. Alora scoffs, telling her she is in a dead end. If only she had treated Caspian a bit better, she wouldn't be in this mess. Listening, Serafina just swirls. The liquor in her glass, confident he won't leave. He'll wait, she has. Thought it through over the past few days. Why compete? She should apologize. Apologize. Hearing this, Alora gets highly sarcastic, telling her to think about how she treated Julian versus Caspian. Would she really lay hands on him? Just because he broke some stuff, Serafina coldly snaps at her to stop. Alora shrugs, fine, keep quiet, but she is the one who crashed. And burned anyway, truth hurts. Serafina frowns deeply, staring. Saying it is already broken, so stop bringing it up. It is just a dead object. Anyway, which took away her last bit of attachment. Her future now belongs solely to Caspian. Honestly, Alora is speechless. Classic. Serafina indeed. If it breaks, it is just a dead object. Alora takes some food and sighs. Having always been favored made her fearless, but this time Serafina might actually fall off a cliff. Suddenly, out of the corner of her eye, she notices Orlaya and Caspian standing up, preparing to leave. She turns to watch them for a few moments. Serafina notices Alora glancing over there repeatedly. This time, she turns her own head to look. She wants to see what is so interesting. Suddenly, she freezes, her entire body running absolutely Cold, Alora silently turns back to look. Yep, she is definitely furious. Now, Serafina's face darkens instantly as she stands and storms over toward Caspian. Alora calls out to stop her, but she gets ignored. Serafina violently shoves Orlaya. Hard, the pair were just planning to leave, completely blind to Serafina. Approaching from behind, caught off guard, Orlaya is slammed back into her chair. Instantly, all eyes in the restaurant snap over. Caspian ignores her entirely and immediately helps Orlaya up, asking if she is okay. Meanwhile, Serafina's furious. Voice echoes through the room. Caspian, what are you doing? What on earth are you doing? Alora quickly steps in to pull her back. Blocking the space between them, he stands protectively right in front of Orlaya, shielding her completely, looking furiously at Serafina before snapping. Serafina, I have nothing to do with you anymore. Get as far away as you can. Don't force me to get physical. Serafina stares at him in sheer disbelief. Asks who she is. Caspian wraps his arm around Orlaya, saying softly she is my wife. Alora smirks at how brilliant Caspian is. This sentence is incredibly lethal. She is definitely not getting a single wink of sleep tonight. The moment she closes her eyes, she will see him holding Orlaya, saying, "This is my wife." Serafina laughs out loud in pure, bitter mockery. Cold, is she your wife? Then who am I? Tell me, who am I? Her voice grows louder. With every single word sounding absolutely terrifying, Caspian gently rubs Orlaya's back, worried she might get frightened. Just as he opens his mouth, Serafina glares venomously at her. Who are you? What is your relationship with him? Orlaya steps forward, calmly repeating exactly what Caspian just said. I am his wife. Alora is left completely dumbfounded, wondering where they hired this brave actress. Caspian completely ignores the drama, taking Orlaya and leaving. As they walk away, he gently asks if she is hurt. Serafina. She wanted to chase after them, but Alora grabbed her arm to stop her again. Alora stopped her. Why was she acting so crazy over their obvious provocation? Serafina laughed in anger, muttering that it was great. Alora looked out at their silhouettes, then back at Serafina with a sigh. Just look at her compared to you. She advised her to forget it. Although she hated discussing Caspian, Alora had to say something. Serafina looked, just as she stepped forward to march outside. The couple had already driven away. Serafina let out a cold sneer. She sneered that Caspian knew exactly how to trigger her anger. She took deep breaths, trying to cope with the reality. She convinced herself it was a fake act just to get a reaction. Inside the car, Orlaya realized just how classless his ex really was. Can you blame her? She remembered how much that painful slap must have hurt. Glancing over at Caspian, she noticed him calculating something in his head. Caspian finally spoke up, asking if they had bought enough gifts. He wondered if they should return to the mall to buy more. So they turned the car back, once inside the busy mall. Caspian pushed the cart, walking right beside her, after a long silence. He told her that if danger strikes, she must hide behind him. He would be devastated if she got hurt. Orlaya turned to look at him, nodded, and flashed a radiant smile. They strolled around the mall, finished shopping, and headed to meet her parents. As they drove, Caspian noted that her parents lived pretty far away. Orlaya nodded, explaining they preferred the quiet life after retiring. Soon, they stopped in front of a massive, traditional Chinese mansion. Caspian stared at it, completely silent for a few seconds. This was way bigger than anything he had originally expected. He grabbed the gifts just as they were about to enter. Orlaya's parents stepped outside, followed closely by their butler. The butler immediately took the items. Her parents sized him up. With polite, gentle smiles on their faces, not too deep, just perfectly right. Orlaya introduced Caspian. Meeting them, he saw they were good-looking. Her striking features were definitely inherited from her parents. Caspian greeted them warmly, calling them mom and dad without hesitation. Surprisingly, they accepted the titles immediately with no complaints. Not a single hint of disapproval. Mother Zia smiled warmly, inviting him inside to sit down instead of standing by the door. Orlia held his hand, whispering to her father as they walked. Not to look so stern, she was terrified of any bad impressions. Father Zia paused in surprise, but his wife just laughed softly. She joked that he always looked like that, but Orlia rarely spoke up. Father Zia smiled helplessly and turned his attention back to Caspian. He assured him he was not unhappy, just naturally stern-looking. Hearing this, Caspian's mounting anxiety finally began to ease up. He never expected her parents to be this friendly. He looked at her. A gentle scratch on his palm, a tingling, electric feeling. This massive mansion felt incredibly empty with so few people around. After pouring the tea, the butler quietly left, leaving Mother Zia bursting with curiosity. She asked how did they get their marriage certificate so fast, when Orlia called that day. She only had one update: she was officially married. Mother Zia instantly wanted to know whose boy it was, since they had never heard of him. Orlia simply answered they had not known each other long. They respected her choices, but this was simply way too fast. Marriage is a massive deal, not some game. At this moment, Orlia spoke up and replied she initiated it. She wanted to live her life with him. Father Zia stared at his daughter. This proactive attitude did not seem like her. Mother Zia turned directly to Caspian, asking why he would ever agree to marry someone he barely knew. A million different excuses immediately flashed through his mind. Ultimately, he decided to tell the absolute truth. Orlia stood downstairs at his place in the pouring rain early that morning. Honestly, he had never seen anything like it. There was some impulse. However, he has absolutely zero regrets right now. Orlia's parents stared at her. She actually braved the storm early in the morning just to propose marriage. They originally assumed Caspian was the one to propose, never expecting their own daughter popped the question. Talk about a twist. But since this was the exact marriage Orlia wanted, they chose to let her be, but proper etiquette still could not be neglected. At this time, Father Zia asked if she visited her in-laws. Orlia nodded. Yes, she went, and they temporarily accepted her. The Zia parents understood, but they still wanted to meet them. Orlia promised to arrange it. Right as she finished speaking, the butler came in to announce that dinner was finally served. While eating, Mother Zia asked a few more casual questions. She wanted to know what kind of work Caspian did. She smiled warmly. It sounded like simple, everyday casual chatter. Caspian quickly responded. After graduating, he opened a coffee shop. He had been running it ever since, making solid income. Father Zia listened. It sounded pretty good. What do the in-laws do? His father was a university professor, and his mother a chief physician. Father Zia smiled at Orlia. Is he your father-in-law's cup of tea? Absolutely. Caspian's father indeed really liked Orlia a lot. The Zia parents only asked basic questions, not pressing further. They didn't press him further, they just urged him to eat more. Orlia kept piling food into his bowl, telling him to eat more. This family dinner went incredibly well, turning out exactly as Orlia had promised. As long as she likes him, her parents will accept it. After finishing dinner, his father-in-law walked them right to the door. Minutes later, a Maserati parked outside, and a young woman stepped out. Father Zia pointed down the road. They just left, he said. The girl chuckled. She just saw Orlia's car. Caleb scoffed. Mother Zia laughed, noting that Caspian was not even mentioned by her. He was just too eye-catching, so why would she ever mention him? Once they got back home, Caspian told Orlia he was heading to the shower first. Orlia hummed in response, heading straight to the fridge for some fresh fruit. She plated it neatly, finishing just as Caspian walked out of the bathroom. Placing the plate down, she told him to have some of the freshly cut fruit. He watched her walk into the bathroom before staring back down at the fruit platter. Using a fork, Caspian speared a sweet piece of mango and popped it right into his mouth. Just then, his phone on the table lit up. prompting him to pick it up and check. Thatcher texted asking if he was off, and Caspian replied he was already home. Without a reply, the doorbell rang 2 minutes later, showing visitors on the monitor. It was Thatcher and Alora, so he immediately opened the door and waved them inside. Stepping aside to let them in, Thatcher immediately spoke up with concern. He asked if Caspian was okay, having heard from Alora that he bumped into Serafina today. Caspian waved his hand, assuring them that he was completely fine and everything was great. They sat down on the sofa together, where Alora flashed a knowing, mischievous smile. Alora joked that his quick words today surely drove the possessive Serafina crazy. She asked if the girl acting with him today was that same Orlia from before. Caspian nodded to confirm it was indeed her, which left Alora feeling quite surprised. She wondered if he asked her to play along, or if she was naturally that detail-oriented. It felt almost too detailed, causing Caspian to freeze for a split second. Caspian replied it was not acting, adding that Serafina could never compare to her. At that moment, Thatcher noticed the freshly cut fruit platter sitting on the table. Seeing a fresh fruit platter, Thatcher joked there was clearly nothing to worry about. Caspian looked at the plate, knowing full well he had not prepared it. Hold on if Caspian did not cut the fruit, who did. Just then, a door clicked. Alora asked in confusion if his parents had suddenly decided to drop by. Thatcher was stunned, wondering if Serafina had somehow found her way inside. No, but before he could even finish, Orlia's voice cut in. Walking out in pajamas, Orlia mentioned she had washed his clothes for him. She stopped mid-sentence when she noticed the two unexpected guests sitting in the living room. Orlia realized these were the two close friends Caspian mentioned earlier. Meanwhile, Thatcher and Alora stared at Orlia in absolute, jaw-dropping shock. Thatcher slowly raised a finger to point at her before turning a stunned gaze toward Caspian. Alora burst out laughing, praising what she thought was ultimate dedication to the role. Caspian beckoned Orlia over, and she obediently sat down right by his side. He introduced her to his friends, stating he had not officially told them yet. This was his wife Orlia, and they were absolutely not putting on an act today. He was not just trying to annoy Serafina, because their relationship was completely real. Both of his friends stood frozen in absolute, jaw-dropping disbelief. They just stared at Orlia in complete silence before Thatcher finally spoke up. He asked if Uncle Arthur and Auntie Evelyn actually agreed to this sudden marriage. Caspian nodded in confirmation, leaving Thatcher still struggling to process the reality. He warned Caspian that marriage is not a game. Thatcher had barely even heard her name mentioned a few fleeting times before this. They had not known each other long. Caspian looked at them and explained that when he was impulsive, Alora stopped him. He was clear-headed, even though Orlia came with a purpose, it was carefully considered. Thatcher looked at Orlia, saying they were not targeting her. It simply progressed too fast, especially with this timing. Orlia chuckled softly, saying she understood. Her poise and demeanor were excellent, but since they had never met her, worrying about their friend's future was completely inevitable. Then, a barrage of questions poured out: what she did, her age, and what her family did. This was likely the last time she would answer such questions. Once Alora got the full story, Thatcher only asked one single question: if she was prone to violence. Alora burst out laughing, asking who he was indirectly roasting. Serafina, obviously. Orlia smiled, saying if she encountered the woman from earlier, she might be. Alora followed up with another question. Lastly, she wanted to know if Orlia kept any precious items, for example, keepsakes left by an ex. Orlia shook her head, saying no. Alora shrugged, signaling she was done. Her first impression of Orlia was from earlier was already wonderful. Caspian and Orlia walked Thatcher and Alora to the door. They insisted the couple stop seeing them off, telling them to rest early, and that they should head back too. Watching them board the elevator, Caspian the door and went back inside. In the elevator, Alora sighed that Serafina was completely doomed. Thatcher looked at her, a bit puzzled, noting she seemed regretful. Alora smiled, admitting there was regret, but it also sweet karma. The regret was that things ended up so hurtful, but Serafina did like Caspian. However, her constantly holding onto old items to occasionally reminisce was what hurt the people around her. This ending was exactly what she deserved. Thatcher nodded, noting Caspian started off with a secret crush, which lowered his own worth. Alora continued, recalling a quote about meeting someone and becoming incredibly low, right into the dust. Thatcher pondered for a moment, replying that the rest of the quote no longer suited them. Alora nodded, agreeing that Caspian was deeply hurt by the person he loved, finding no joy, while Serafina maintained her stubborn, dead-end attitude. Actually, Alora felt that Caspian marrying someone else so quickly was 50% because of Serafina. Caspian has incredibly strong boundaries, but he feared he would lower them for Serafina, so he entirely burned the bridge, leaving himself no way back. Alora scoffed, knowing that if Serafina found out, drama would explode. She was a menace when Julian left her to chase a youthful romance in another city. Dumping Serafina, she did nothing but sulk by herself. Thatcher paused, wondering if she had ever tried to retaliate, speaking of which he noted that Serafina being treated as a rebound was miserable. Alora shook her head, rejecting that completely. Even though Alora and Serafina were best friends, facts were facts. She continued, calling it a twisted case of the dragon slayer becoming the dragon. Julian had treated Serafina as a rebound, and she used that exact same weapon to stab a knife into Caspian. The victim ended up bullying the one person who truly loved her. Love while acting high and mighty about it. Now, her karma has finally come. Boomeranged. Thatcher remained silent, considerate retribution. Meanwhile, on the other side, after sending them off, Caspian explained to Orlia that his friends didn't mean any harm. Orlia nodded, knowing they didn't ask anything out of line questions either. Hearing this, Caspian smiled and glanced over toward the bathroom, noting the laundry was done and offering to hang it up, but Orlia hurriedly shook her head, insisting she do it before trotting over with red cheeks. Those were her personal clothes. Even though they were married, they were still practically strangers. The thought of Caspian holding her undergarments made her feel incredibly embarrassed. By the time the clothes were hung, it was already 9:30. Orlia finally pushed the door open and entered the bedroom. When she came back, she found Caspian was already lying down, looking at it now. This bed really was quite small. Orlia lay down too and switched off the lights. Right then, Caspian spoke up, asking if she had ever been in a relationship. If Alora hadn't brought up items from an ex today, he probably wouldn't have even thought to ask. Orlia was very straightforward. She dated once during college, but it didn't end well. Orlia paused, afraid Caspian might misunderstand. She quickly added that it was just like classmates hanging out, only holding hands and nothing else. In the dark bedroom, a soft chuckle sounded near her ear. He didn't expect her to confess such intimate details. With her gentle personality, he found it hard to imagine how they broke up. After those words, silence filled the room. Honestly, you'd think she was silently missing her ex in that quietness. But Caspian didn't push. He immediately told her not to force herself. Orlia explained that their viewpoints were just so completely different, since her ex wanted her to go into business with him after graduation, and she didn't like that. Hearing this, Caspian told her to just let nature take its course. Her achievements today were already incredibly impressive anyway. His reassuring words made Orlia feel incredibly comfortable. She turned on her side and hugged him, letting sleepiness take over. After last night's physical contact, she didn't feel as uncomfortable. She fell asleep 10 minutes later, listening to her soft breathing. Caspian couldn't tell how much time passed before his own consciousness faded into sleep. In the early hours of the morning, he woke up from a nightmare, feeling restless. He switched on the warm, small lamp on the bedside table. Instantly, Orlai awoke with a start, realizing Caspian was looking at her. With concern, she panted heavily, using her arm to shield her. Eyes from the light, he pulled her close, asking gently if she had a nightmare. Orlai only gave a faint reply, insisting she was fine and he should sleep while she washed her face. Saying that, she threw off the covers and got up. Caspian watched her go, then headed to the kitchen to find a packet of green tea, brewing a fresh cup for her before returning to the bedroom. He handed the glass cup over, telling her to drink. Though she didn't know what it was, Orlai drank it. When finished, she placed the cup on the bedside table. Caspian looked at her, sharing that when he used to be stressed from studying, he couldn't sleep either. His mother got Orlai smiles, explaining the remedy is from a skilled Chinese doctor. He feels much better after drinking. He thanks her, then rests. Waking up early the next morning, he sees her. She looks refreshed. Since he woke up early today, he cooks breakfast while watching her. Is your sleep always this bad? He asks. Orlai simply nods. Terrible, she admits. Last night, bad memories from her past returned. Does this happen to you often? Once again, Orlai quietly nods. Hospital doctors never helped, but these past 2 days feel completely different. Her sleep lately has actually been much better than it was before. She even saw a therapist. Eventually, they asked if she was married. They suggested finding someone comfortable to spend her time with. Orlai is not sure if it is because of him, but she feels at peace. Spending time with him feels like they are on the exact same wavelength. His comforting words put her at ease, prompting him to make a suggestion. He tells her to drink green tea before bed, swearing by it. Orlai laughs, pointing out that she already drank his entire supply. He shakes his head, saying he does not deal with that kind of pressure anymore. Ever since graduation, whenever he is extremely down, sleeping is actually his escape. He does not struggle to fall asleep, he just struggles to wake up. Orlai wipes the table clean, getting ready to head out for the day. She carries the trash downstairs while he heads over to his coffee shop. He arrives at 8:30, immediately greeted by his teasing employees. With sly grins, they mention a gorgeous woman came looking for him. She asked if the boss was around, so they told her he got married. Another employee jumps in, begging him to spill the juicy details. He laughs at their curiosity. There is really no grand story to tell. He simply promises to have his wife bring them afternoon tea next time. They cheer, instantly declaring that the boss's wife is the absolute best. In that case, they promise to drop the questions out of respect for her. They assume he married Serafina, but they are in for a shock. Amused by their antics, he tells them to get back to work. Checking his phone, he sees a message from Thatcher about Uncle Arthur. He mentions Orlai is a famous professor, asking if this marriage is a rebound. He stares at the screen, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. He types out a yes, but not to anger Serafina or act out of spite. He simply wanted to force himself to finally move on from her. Liking her first put him at a disadvantage, fearing he would stay stuck forever. He was losing himself. Thatcher immediately replies in complete agreement. He texts back that Serafina is definitely not worth his time anyway. He says a toxic person like her deserves to suffer for her actions. He replies to his friend, reassuring him that he is doing great now. While they chat, an employee runs over to him with a massive grin. She whispers that a gorgeous, breathtaking woman is outside looking for him. His mind immediately jumps to Orlai, but she should be at school. Puzzled, he asks the employee if it is the same beauty from yesterday. Had she been there before? The employee shook her head. No, but this lady was gorgeous. She had a business proposal. Boss Lou nodded, wondering if it was some corporate order. Maybe a company ordering a few hundred cups of coffee for employee perks. The employee pointed to a woman sitting by the window. Boss Lou walked right over. He politely offered his help. Calliope simply gestured for him to take the opposite seat. He sat down. Calliope quietly sized him up before starting her pitch. She calmly announced that she wanted to order coffee for her company's employees. That confirmed it, just simple employee perks or afternoon tea. Pretty generous of her to show up in person. They got corporate orders all the time. Usually those capped at 100 or two. Boss Lou looked at her. Go ahead, he said. How many do you need, and when do you need them? Her red lips parted to reveal an insane number, 3,000 cups. He froze. At that massive quantity, the tip of his pen stopped midair. He slowly raised his eyes to stare at her, putting the pen down with forced calm. Calliope simply raised an eyebrow and asked if something was wrong. Boss Lou let out a tense smile, asking if she was here to wreck his shop. Calliope froze. She paused for a moment, insisting she was not. Her reaction actually seemed pretty genuine. She clearly was not there to pick a fight, which made this whole situation incredibly weird. He explained that making 3,000 cups in a single day would literally burn out his machines. Even if the equipment survived, his staff could never handle that kind of volume. They could not pull it off even if they skipped eating and sleeping entirely. Hearing this, the woman calmly asked if she needed to provide her own machines. Boss Lou stared in complete shock. Her suggestion sounded like a total joke. It felt like she was mocking him, yet her serious expression said otherwise. What was her angle here? He tried explaining again that they could not do it in a day. If they only focused on her massive order, normal walk-in business would completely die. He asked in utter disbelief if she was really being serious right now. Calliope offered a faint, amused smile, suggesting a compromise of 500 cups a day. Boss Lou nodded quickly, agreeing that 500 a day was actually manageable. Since she was not joking, she pulled out her phone to show her payment code. Asking him to scan it, Boss Lou grabbed the machine, highly skeptical. Get ready for this. Boss Lou fully expected an insufficient balance error. He typed in 15,000 for the first 500 cups. If this transaction cleared, then she was the most generous boss on the planet. But just as he announced the total, Calliope raised her hand to stop him. She demanded to pay for all 3,000 cups up front. He was speechless. He punched in 90,000, and the payment instantly went through. Just like that, a massive order was secured. Calliope stood up to leave. She mentioned her assistant would collect the first batch that afternoon. Boss Lou quickly clarified if delivering 500 cups over 6 days was acceptable. Their daily workload was already heavy, meaning they would have to rush. Calliope had no complaints. She gave him a brief glance and walked out. He brought the receipt to his staff, warning them of the hectic days ahead. If she had not paid in full, they would have assumed it was a prank. The employees stared at the receipt in shock, wondering how massive her company really was. He stares at the massive corporate order slip on the counter. Time to start brewing. They are picking them up this afternoon. Chaos begins. The entire shop goes into overdrive, keeping him busy until 12. No breaks. He barely finds a single second to eat some lunch. While eating, a sweet text from Aurelia pops up, asking if he ate. He quickly replies that he just started eating and is quite busy today. It is almost like she was waiting by her phone because an instant reply flashes. She says she will come back to cook a warm dinner for him tonight. He smiles, he sends a quick heart emoji and gets back to work. Against all odds, 500 cups are finished by 4 p.m., right as a suited man arrives. The man walks in, politely announcing that his boss sent him to fetch the massive order. The staff quickly load all the coffee boxes into his car. But the assistant looks around, utterly confused by his boss's weird choice. Why on earth would Boss Zia drive all this way for coffee? Buying hundreds of drinks under her own name for the company is bizarre. Then Caspian walks out. A wild thought hits the assistant. Is Boss Zia actually romantically interested in this handsome cafe owner? No way, she is not like that. Caspian asks if he wants to count them. The assistant just smiles and shakes his head, saying it is not necessary. With his task complete, the suited man prepares to leave. But right as he prepares to exit, a woman suddenly bursts into the shop. The assistant freezes. It is Serafina, the famous general manager of Luo Corporation. Just seeing her face instantly fills Caspian with absolute annoyance. On the other hand, the staff happily assume their boss's wife has arrived. Ignoring everyone, Serafina grabs his hand tightly, demanding to speak. She drags him straight to the back, away from nosy onlookers. The stunned assistant points at the empty hallway where they just vanished. He asks the employees if they are going to check on their boss. Believing she is his wife, they shrug it off as a marital spat. They tell him she is the boss's wife, leaving the assistant more baffled. They do not look married at all, but he decides not to meddle. He bids them farewell and leaves. Meanwhile, Caspian faces Serafina. Caspian looks at her flatly, asking what she wants to say today. Frowning, she begs him to stop being so incredibly prickly with her. She complains, asking why they cannot just go back to the old days. She wants them to forgive and forget, to stop making a big fuss. But his thorny attitude always ruins things, ending their conversations in anger. She warns him that acting like this will only drive them further apart. Her voice is softer this time, carrying a faint hint of whining. Perhaps this long Cold War has finally made her tired of fighting. Caspian just stares back calmly, ready to deliver a cold reality check. He reminds her that he once loved her and thought she was perfect. When she first mentioned marriage, he had been absolutely ecstatic. He even forgot how badly she neglected him during those 2 years. A tiny crumb of sweetness from her was enough to make him happy. Caspian once thought he could just survive on the crumbs of her affection. Forever until she actually struck him over that incident, he had not spoken such a massive speech to Serafina in years, yet he could not help but mock. Himself, why was he even telling her all this? She could never truly empathize. With him anyway, she did not understand. She just thought he was throwing a tantrum, so he told her to remember one thing: they were completely finished. It was over, stop bothering him, he said. Serafina stood frozen, hands clenching tightly. She understood his words perfectly. She just felt he had no right to talk to her like this, arguing so childishly just to win some petty debate. In their relationship, Caspian had always been the one yielding to her every whim. So she simply took his kindness for granted. She knew early on that he loved her, making her feel completely untouchable. But wait, watch her panic now. How was she bothering him? She cried. They were getting married. She could not defend her past actions. She had hit him, but assumed his love meant instant forgiveness. No matter what she did, he would forgive her. Caspian immediately crushed that delusion. He made it clear one last time. The moment she struck him, they became impossible. Serafina frowned, yelling back at him. Why on earth was it impossible? She demanded. He had liked her since they were 8 years old. Could he really just let go? Could he stand to see her with another man? How could they be impossible? He stared back at her with absolute calm. She knew, she had always known his feelings. And that was exactly why she treated him like garbage. Staring at her, he asked, didn't he watch her and Julian run around together for all those painful years? She knew his heart the entire time. That was why she constantly brought Julian around, flaunting their romance just to tell Caspian to stop dreaming. Old, painful memories resurfaced. Serafina never expected him to drag up another old wound that cut him so deeply. Panicking, she tried to grab his hand, stammering that she never meant it that way. Caspian stepped back, dodging her touch. Her hand hung empty in the air. He realized just how pathetic human nature could be. What people possess is always treated like trash compared to what they lose. Staring at Serafina's hand still frozen in midair, he recalled how he once believed a broken cup was some cosmic sign to bridge their painful gap. He never expected it would actually be the wake-up call he needed. The very last time he reached for her hand, she threw it away. They ended right there. Loving her was a constant, exhausting battle. Her heart belonged to another. To her, even a shattered ceramic cup mattered more than his entire existence. If she had not paraded Julian around, he might have believed she was just naturally cold. Instead, he saw her capacity for warmth firsthand. He had been disappointed for too long. Uncovering these hidden, ugly truths now only filled him with deep disgust. "Caspian," she pleaded, "striking you was my fault. I am so incredibly sorry. Please, we cannot end things like this." Serafina was growing completely incoherent now. She had no idea how to fix it, having abused his devotion for years. Serafina gasped for air, struggling against a heavy, suffocating weight. It felt like drowning. The only other time she experienced this agony was her breakup with Julian. Unable to bear any more of his freezing words, she bolted from the shop. Caspian watched her leave and finally let out a long, heavy sigh of relief. But in all that emotional chaos, he forgot one crucial detail he had too. He was already married. Sitting by the window, he watched the pedestrians pass by. Outside, slowly calming his racing thoughts, seeing Serafina always brought massive emotional swings. Finding out today that she always knew about his old feelings, he felt sickened. The sincere heart he offered had been repeatedly trampled on. Trampled. After sitting there a while, he told his staff he was leaving and headed home early. By the time he arrived, Orlia was already back. She was cooking, fully expecting him to return much later than he actually did. Seeing him looking quite unhappy, she leaned in, bringing her lovely face close. She gently asked if something bad had happened, but Caspian shook his head. He told her that Serafina had visited the shop, looking for him that afternoon. It made him realize his past feelings were worthless. Looking up, he saw Orlia's stunning face right in front of him, forgetting everything he was saying. He could not help but gulp. Beauty truly was an absolute distraction. Collecting himself after 2 seconds, he told her he had no feelings left. For Serafina, he wanted to share everything with her, unless she disliked hearing it. If she preferred not to hear about his past, he would never mention it again. Orlia shook her head and held his hand, saying his honesty left no room for any doubts. Right then, a strong burning smell caught Caspian's attention. Sitting up straight, he asked her what that terrible, smoky odor was. Orlia gasped, realizing the fish she was pan-frying was likely burning to a crisp. She rushed into the kitchen, turned off the heat, and threw open the lid. The sauce was bone dry, leaving the fish completely charred as they stood there. They locked eyes by the stove. He smiled, feeling totally helpless. Since dinner was ruined, they finally sat down to eat at 6:30. During the meal, he mentioned a very bizarre customer who had placed an order. At first, he thought she wanted to trash the place, but she seemed sincere. Utterly bizarre, Orlia looked up, asking what was so strange about her. Pausing his chopsticks, he seriously explained she wanted to buy 3,000 cups of coffee in just one day. Orlia looked up, agreeing it sounded like trouble. He laughed, explaining he told the woman his staff simply could not manage that. The shop was packed already. Adding 3,000 cups would break them. He even joked that his espresso machines would probably catch fire and die. But she earnestly offered to supply extra equipment, lowering her daily demand instead. Only 500 cups now. He had never met anyone like this. Orlia looked deeply thoughtful, casually asking what kind of wealthy boss she was. He recalled the woman's face, mentioning that she was actually quite beautiful. Then he stared at Orlia, realizing she somehow looked a lot like her. Orlia casually brushed it off, telling him not to overthink the weird woman. A brain cramp. Caspian had not expected Orlia to say that. She quietly placed more food into his bowl, encouraging him to just eat. Later that night, once her work was finished, she stared at her desk phone. Remembering their dinner conversation, she picked it up and quickly dialed a number. When the call connected, she coldly asked if they had investigated Caspian. Her voice was calm but laced with deep displeasure, yet they remained unfazed. The voice on the line quickly insisted they would never dare without her permission. She went to check on Caspian in person, leaving a little welcome gift since they finally met. Orlia asked what kind of gift that was, since it was clearly just trouble. Ordering 3,000 cups in a single day was trouble only Calliope would dream up. Calliope just laughed over the phone, telling Orlia not to say another word. She had actually planned on ordering 5,000 cups, but Orlia shut that down. Orlia warned her not to bother Caspian anymore, so Calliope quickly changed the subject. Getting serious, Calliope asked if she was still having trouble sleeping lately. Orlia replied that things had been pretty good these past 2 days. That was a relief, but Calliope had another piece of news from her assistant. The general manager of Luo Corporation had visited the coffee shop that very afternoon. The staff were calling Serafina the boss's wife, which immediately caught Orlia's attention. Frowning, Orlia explained that the woman was simply Caspian's ex-wife. Calliope told her to handle it, and Orlia quietly nodded in agreement. Hanging up the phone, she walked back to the bedroom with heavy thoughts. She knew she had to visit that coffee shop again the very next afternoon. She absolutely refused to let Serafina steal her rightful title as his wife. The next morning, Caspian kept busy, personally helping make a 500-cup order. While waiting for the pickup, he sat down to rest before heading home. That was when a very familiar figure suddenly walked right through the door. It was Orlia, her hands loaded down with desserts, chocolates, and treats. Surprised, Caspian immediately went over to greet her and ask why she came. Orlia knew she had to stake her claim as the legally wedded wife. Otherwise, the staff would keep mistaking his ex-wife for the actual boss's wife. As she walked in, the staff members looked over and instantly froze. They were completely stunned by her incredible beauty as Orlia warmly greeted them. She announced it was her first visit, and she brought some afternoon tea. The curious staff crowded around, asking Caspian who this gorgeous woman was. Orlia gently took Caspian's hand, and he proudly introduced her as his wife. He reminded them of his marriage, prompting Liam to instantly shout a greeting. Orlia smiled warmly at the greeting, which got Lily super excited as well. No wonder their boss promised they could look their fill next time. And honestly, seeing her in person was even better than they imagined. After sharing the treats, she and Caspian sat down together by the window. Caspian looked at her with a smile, asking what brought her here. She teasingly explained she was free after finishing her report for class. Besides, she wanted to see the shop since Serafina had stopped by. She joked about how someone else might get called the actual boss's wife. Caspian could not help but grin, highly amused by her cute little jealousy. He warmly assured her that he had already set the record perfectly straight. He had strictly told the staff not to call just anyone his wife. Hearing that he defended her honor made Orlia feel incredibly happy inside. Changing the subject, she mentioned speaking with his parents earlier that morning. They were completely free tonight for a family dinner with both sides. Caspian was a bit confused, wondering how she had asked them so quickly. She simply laughed, noting that her school was quite close to his parents' house. She visited them that morning and saved their contacts, leaving Caspian completely frozen. He couldn't believe she went out of her way, knowing his parents were probably thrilled. Since Orlia did not deny it, Caspian smiled and looked at her warmly. He praised her thoughtfulness, confident that his parents already adored her. Resting his chin on his hand, he considered mentioning his ex, Serafina. But he hesitated, feeling it was inappropriate, a shift Orlia noticed immediately. She told him to speak freely, reminding him of their marriage agreement. So Caspian blurted it out, explaining how their families had known each other forever. Yet even when he and Serafina were together, things were very different. His ex only visited casually, never putting real effort into his parents. But Orlia's deep sincerity was bound to leave a massive impression on them. And honestly, who wouldn't love her? Orlia playfully teased him about the comparison. She joked about thanking his ex for paving the way as he pulled her along. They left the shop, and Orlia drove them home before switching to his car. On the road, Caspian finally asked if she had booked a restaurant yet. She nodded, having secured a table at the Wally Hotel earlier that afternoon. Caspian admired her thorough planning. At 5:30, they pulled up to the hotel. They stepped out and coincidentally ran into his parents at the entrance. Orlia walked right up to greet them, warmly calling them Mom and Dad. His parents beamed with pure joy, their smiles growing wider at the sight. They eagerly asked if her parents had arrived yet, and Orlia nodded. She explained they were already waiting inside, so they hurried to avoid being late. Caspian held Orlia's hand, following his parents as they made their way inside. Inside the private room, her parents stepped forward to greet the arriving group. Immediate success, both families hit it off with warm pleasantries. With everyone finally gathered, the waiter politely asked if they could serve dinner. Once given the green light, the staff immediately set off to bring the food. Caspian's parents spoke up first, offering a sincere apology for the sudden rush. They felt their son had handled the marriage proposal far too quickly. But Orlia's parents shook their heads. No way. They explained it was actually Orlia who proposed to Caspian first. They should apologize. Caspian's father simply laughed it off. It was the kids' own choice, and they already deeply adored Orlia anyway. With the ice broken, the floodgates of friendly conversation fully opened. Meanwhile, the newlyweds sat close together, focusing mostly on their food. They quietly whispered to each other as the dinner stretched until 8:30. When they finally finished, both families were beaming with joy. Each parent offered some parting wisdom to the couple before saying goodbye. 30 minutes later, Caspian and Orlia finally returned to their home. Orlia scrolled social media and saw her mother-in-law's new post. It featured photos of their marriage certificates alongside tonight's dinner. This was basically her way of making the marriage official. Seeing this, Orlia immediately dug out their actual certificates. She overlapped the documents together and snapped a quick photo. Then she proudly uploaded the photo with the caption "Newlyweds." Everyone had to know about the wedding, and the warm blessings poured in. While Orlia happily read the comments, his phone suddenly started buzzing. It sat on the table, ringing relentlessly with an unsaved number. Just a string of random digits calling over and over. The noise was giving him a headache as he left the shower. Dressed in a towel, he asked who was calling, but she just shook her head. She explained it was an unknown number, and they had already called 10 times. Instantly, a specific name crossed his mind, and Orlia seemed to suspect it, too. Such frantic late-night calls, right after her father-in-law's post, made things pretty obvious. It was almost certainly his ex-girlfriend, Serafina, so Caspian finally picked up the phone. Before he could even utter a single word, her furious screaming blasted through the speaker. She shrieked what on earth was wrong with him. Who did he marry so fast? Why did he have to move on so quickly? Asking if this was his so-called love, she accused him of moving on too fast. She even suggested he was cheating on her before they officially ended things. Her voice was incredibly loud. Orlia heard every single word. Normally, Caspian would have cursed back. He held it in for Orlia. Keeping his voice steady, he asked if she was just making up lies to soothe her own ego. He pointed out that since they were over, his marriage was absolutely none of her business. His life was finally back on track, and he had built something beautiful for himself. This was the respectful, effort-filled marriage he had always wanted. Furious, Serafina gritted her teeth and insisted that they had never actually broken up. He scoffed, replying that a casual relationship holds absolutely no legal obligation. In fact, if she wanted to play that game, they were never truly a couple. Seething with rage, she accused him of marrying someone else just to get back at her. He laughed, reminding her that she never cared about him when they were together anyway. She was always obsessed with her past, so it never felt like a real relationship. He even openly wondered if she only saw her ex, Julian, whenever she looked at him. Serafina froze. Julian's name hit her hard, making her grip tighten. A wave of panic hit her, but Caspian coldly added that he was completely done. He owed her absolutely nothing. Whatever pain she felt was her own fault. With that final blow, he hung up and instantly blocked her number. Turning to his new wife, he apologized for bringing that ugly drama into their home. Orlia gently took his hand, pulling him down to sit beside her. She softly reassured him it was okay. Her voice was pure comfort. Then she admitted there was another reason she married him that she had kept hidden. Hearing this, Caspian immediately tensed up, wondering what secret she was about to drop. He felt a sudden dread. Was she about to drop a massive bomb? Feeling him stiffen, she wrapped an arm around his back to soothe him. She quietly explained that her doctor had diagnosed her with severe post-traumatic stress. Even though she occasionally saw a therapist, the treatments had not helped her at all. Caspian studied her face, realizing her issues went far deeper than simple work fatigue. He had assumed her constant insomnia and nightmares were just from a demanding job. But the real culprit was deep emotional trauma from her college days. Her old doctor had once advised her to find a partner on her wavelength. Caspian tried dating back in college, never expecting it to backfire. For years he had zero interest in dating or anything like that. Hearing this, Orlia chuckles. Until she met him by chance. Simply put, she wanted to live with him, wanted him by his side, though it sounds a bit bold putting it that way, it is the absolute truth. Caspian chuckles dryly at her sheer boldness. Hearing this from Orlia is pretty hard to believe. Afraid he might misunderstand, she quickly tries to explain herself, saying she genuinely wants to spend her entire life with him. Just being around him feels incredibly comfortable and peaceful, even though many years have passed. She still struggles with terrible insomnia, but these past few days her condition has been surprisingly good. Caspian really wanted to ask her what had exactly happened, but feels it would only rub salt in her raw wounds. So Caspian decides to let it go. Orlia looks at him silently in the dim room, deeply touched by how much he genuinely cares about her complex emotions. Taking a deep breath, she hugs him tightly and confesses everything. She and a close childhood friend were actually kidnapped years ago, and their captors demanded a huge ransom from their families. Both sides gathered the cash but secretly contacted the police, secretly hoping that paying the ransom would buy them some precious time. But those heartless captors went completely psycho and brutally murdered her friend right there while she watched. Right before her eyes, it should have been her, but the police arrived. And she survived. Just as she finishes speaking, a sudden and loud noise echoes from outside the window. Orlia flinches violently in sudden terror. Caspian immediately pulls her into a warm, tight embrace, whispering softly that she really should not talk about it. Now he finally knows why her parents accepted their sudden marriage. He cannot blame them at all for letting her do whatever she wants. Talk about a heartbreaking past. As long as she is happy, nothing else even matters. Orlia leans deeply into his warm embrace, desperately seeking comfort. She softly whispers that she is truly not afraid of wanting a lifetime with him. Getting it all out lifts a massive weight off her shoulders. Caspian feels her soft body pressing closely against him, and the feeling instantly makes his heart beat way too fast. A chilly draft, she shivers and pulls herself back, straightening up a bit. Caspian looks down at her. That is the exact moment she suddenly realizes she is only wearing a thin nightgown with absolutely no undergarments on beneath it. Been pressing directly against his chest for so long through two thin layers of fabric. Caspian definitely felt absolutely everything, so why on earth even say probably? He absolutely felt it all. Orlia's face instantly flushes bright red. She immediately lets go, stammering that she must go to sleep. Without another word, she immediately bolts and runs directly back into her quiet bedroom. She dives under her covers, silently repeating to herself over and over that they are actually married. And everything is perfectly fine. Meanwhile, Caspian just rests his arm on the sofa, watching her flee in absolute panic, as he lightly raises an eyebrow with a soft chuckle. He didn't even say anything, so why on earth did she run away? Then he opens the Taobao app to search specifically for that exact Lily of the Valley mug. A page immediately pops up, and he orders 20 of them right away. He knows Serafina way too well, and she will definitely use any excuse to reel him back. Even demanding his cup, so he just buys 20 replacements. Buying identical ones wholesale. After all, it was from her ex, and Caspian was one too. After handling everything, Caspian got up, washed up, and went to sleep right next to Orlaia. The next morning over breakfast, Caspian looked up to meet Orlaia's eyes. Slowly chewing his food, while quietly studying her face for a few silent seconds before asking if he should drop her off at school today, Orlaia paused for 2 seconds and agreed. Once they left, he parked right by the entrance of a local coffee shop, unbuckling his seatbelt to tell her to wait for him a moment while he grabbed them some coffee. But while he waited for the brew, Orlaia walked in, eyebrows raised, asking him in a quiet voice if it was for her. Caspian nodded, telling her they needed to hurry. He gently pulled her along and they left, while buckling her seatbelt back in. Orlaia's hand paused. She turned to look at him and realized she had not paid. Caspian chuckled at her worry, telling her to just drink up. Soon, they were near the campus and he asked what time he should come back to pick her up. Orlaia immediately said around 4:30, and he promised to pick her up then. She agreed, though secretly she did not mind waiting for him at all. Soon the car engine hummed to a stop right by the curb. As Orlaia stepped out, she glanced at the school and walked to his window, bending down to ask if he wanted to come inside and look around with her. Caspian agreed since he was free anyway, and honestly, who could say no to her? Orlaia smiled, assuring him that he was more than welcome to join. Caspian stepped out of the vehicle and walked through the campus gates right beside her. She guided him straight to her office, but right as they reached the door, a voice drifted from inside, asking why Professor Shaw was running later than usual. Mid-sentence, the speaker cut herself off. It was her colleague, Beatrix, who now stared wide-eyed at Caspian. Feeling the sudden tension, Caspian decided to break the ice by warmly wishing her a good morning. Beatrix blinked, snapping back to reality to reply. Orlaia introduced her as the office colleague, who had previously wanted to grab dinner with him. After introducing them, Orlaia offered him a comfortable chair to sit. Beatrix immediately hurried over, nudging Orlaia, and whispering that she still had not introduced her brother-in-law. Orlaia smiled, introducing Caspian Liu as her husband. Beatrix turned to him and mentioned she noticed how much better Orlaia had been doing lately. Asking if she was finally sleeping, Caspian smiled and nodded in confirmation. Beatrix jokingly complained that Orlaia was a total workaholic who not only skipped grades but also skipped sleep, grinding herself to the absolute bone. She became a young professor, but hearing about her insomnia made Caspian's smile fade. As he looked at Orlaia, knowing her past, he knew she wanted to sleep. The deep heartache in his eyes did not escape Orlaia's notice. She gently patted his hand to comfort him. Checking the clock, he realized it was time to head back and let them work, but he did not forget to look at Beatrix and suggest they all grab dinner sometime. Beatrix beamed and readily agreed. Orlaia wanted to walk him out, but Caspian shook his head. He told her to stay, otherwise she would have to walk all the way back alone. But as he reached the door, he suddenly grabbed Orlaia's wrist, making her turn to look. Caspian pulls her close in front of him, leaning down to peck her lightly. Right on the lips, it is a gentle kiss, and Orlaia instantly freezes. For 2 seconds, her cheeks turn red as she purses her lips. He smiles. He says he is leaving, then turns to go. Orlaia leans against the doorframe, watching him walk away. The deep affection in her eyes is overflowing. Only after he disappears does she look away. Behind her, Beatrix stands there. Beatrix is completely exasperated. She asks if Professor Zia Orlaia can please rein it in. Seriously, does she think people have stopped breathing? Does she even realize the damage? A perfectly matched couple aggressively flexing their romance does serious damage. Oralia just walks over and drops a breezy, nonchalant comment. She retorts that Beatrix saw nothing. Truth is, Oralia never expected that kiss. Now she is heading to class in an amazing mood, which Beatrix easily notices. When Oralia is happy, she gives off a vibe of not caring about anyone. Whether anyone else lives or dies. Meanwhile, Caspian drives back to the shop. As soon as he walks inside, he spots Thatcher sitting by the window. He walks over, smiling. Just then, a delivery guy arrives with a package. Caspian signs for the box and tears it open to inspect it. It is the cups he ordered last night. Local delivery is incredibly fast. Seeing Caspian looking so pleased, Thatcher asks him what he bought. Thatcher sips his coffee, watching him unbox the delivery right in front of him. But the moment he catches a glimpse of the contents, he almost spits. Wiping his mouth with a tissue, his eyes go wide with shock. He bursts into laughter, calling Caspian an absolute menace to the heart. Caspian lays out 20 Lily of the Valley mugs across the table. They look identical to the one Julian gave Serafina. Thatcher picks one up. He inspects it 360 degrees, tapping the side to test it. Even the thickness is exactly the same. Thatcher smiles and shakes his head. He asks how much they cost, and Caspian says 59.9 RMB. These cheap ones are best sellers. There were more expensive ones for 180. But giving those to Serafina is a waste, since she might just smash them. Thatcher thinks he is a total genius for wholesale, ordering 20 of these. Caspian nods, saying this will stop her from constantly demanding he pay her back. Talk about being prepared. Thatcher sets the cup down with a long sigh. Without an excuse to find Caspian, she would absolutely use that cup as a pretext. Even if she only dated him, because he slightly resembled her ex back then. It was a sudden whim, yet they somehow ended up staying together. For 2 years, she never completely cut ties with her feelings for her ex. Thatcher changes the subject, asking if they have thought about the wedding yet. Caspian shakes his head, explaining there is absolutely no rush right now. Their parents brought it up over dinner, but it depends on what they want. Thatcher nods, agreeing that planning a wedding is always a massive pain. Plus, if he and Oralia had a wedding right now, it would be scary. Caspian neatly arranges the cups, looking up to ask why he would be scared. Thatcher laughs, repeating that he would simply be terrified of the chaos. Thatcher warns that Serafina will go feral and cause a massive scene if she sees them together. A wedding bloodbath. He feels she is definitely capable of doing that. They really had just split up. Serafina is definitely not ready for this. She cannot stand to see him with another woman. He thinks it over. He nods, hard to say. He completely forgot about his ex in all this. Besides, they have not even started planning any wedding yet, so there is no rush. Thatcher tells him not to stress too much. Serafina did not make trouble before. She did not mess with Julian, right? They all grew up together. Even though her feelings for them differ, a solid foundation of affection remains. It will all pass with time, yet Thatcher is not entirely sure. After all, reading Serafina is like searching for a needle in the ocean. He nods thoughtfully as Thatcher suddenly checks his watch to see the time. Thatcher must leave for a meeting, but he stops him. He looks at the mugs on the table, picking one up to show his friend. He asks if Thatcher wants a cup. Thatcher finds this hilarious. He takes the cup, joking that he wants to see what magic it holds. Once Thatcher leaves, he packs the cups back up and starts his work day. He stays busy until 4:30 in the afternoon, then leaves to fetch Oralia. Grabbing his keys, he heads to the school, sending Oralia a quick message on the way. He asks to pick her up now, and she instantly replies yes. She follows up with a sweet apology for the trouble. He arrives at the gates. Oralia is already waiting there. She walks over and opens the passenger door. It feels like she has been waiting forever. He asks if he is late. Oralia shakes her head, saying she just walked out and only waited 10 minutes. Once they arrive home and park, he looks over at Oralia sitting beside him. Wait, is she actually sleeping? He quietly stares at her closed eyes. But just as he hesitates to wake her, she suddenly opens her eyes. Exactly as the car engine cuts off, he tells her he thought she fell asleep. Together they step out of the elevator. Opening the door, she looks at him. She quietly admits that falling asleep is never easy for her. She turns her body, leaning close to his ear to whisper softly. Leaning on him makes it a little easier, though. She lets out a soft chuckle. Shedding her black trench coat over the sofa, she rolls up her shirt sleeves. She heads straight to the kitchen. After a quiet dinner, they unwind. They read together before saying goodnight, and he heads to the shower. Stepping back into the bedroom, he spots Oralia standing on the balcony. She is on a phone call. Just as he gets into bed, she walks inside. Pushing open the sliding glass door, she steps inside. He watches her closely. She looks up and blinks. Her long, curled eyelashes flutter beautifully. She looks completely tempting. Not going to lie, he is totally captivated. Oralia easily catches the heat in his eyes. She is about to speak. But he leans down and suddenly kisses her, propping himself on his hand. In just a few moments, Oralia is completely melting in his embrace. Her eyes grow delightfully hazy. His hand slowly slides down to her shoulder, gently caressing her soft skin right through the thin fabric. He involuntarily hooks her collar, but suddenly stops, pulling his hand back, letting go. Her gaze holds far more than just standard infatuation as her passion-filled eyes look up at Caspian. He rolls over and lies down beside her, hitting the brakes so suddenly during. This intense moment leaves them both feeling incredibly awkward. His voice is low. Rough, he says he is waiting for her to make the first move. Oralia, still dazed from that long kiss, has not recovered, lying there softly. She takes a long moment before numbly replying okay. His mind is still filled with Orlia's passion-filled eyes and those tempting, tightly pursed red lips. Caspian gives her a sideways glance, wondering if he kissed her into a stupor. Oralia processes his words and, after a long pause, whispers that it has never been like this before. Caspian lets out a low, seductive laugh, teasing her that she seems to really like it. Her face instantly flushes crimson as she rolls up in the blanket, turning her back to him to sleep. The next day, Oralia makes him breakfast and leaves while he is still sleeping. Having finished that massive order last time, Caspian does not need to go to the shop so early. Arriving around 9 a.m., he steps out of his car. Suddenly, a hand grabs his wrist hard, yanking him into the back seat of a car parked right next to him. It is Serafina. Her again, talk about a toxic ex slams shut with a bang, followed by the sharp click of the locks. Serafina sits beside him, sporting that same aloof, high-end mighty posture. Caspian looks at her, feeling quite speechless as she leans in closer to him. She demands to know why he is treating her like this. She cannot figure it out. He used to love her so much, always chasing her whenever she had free time. He would constantly hover around her and talk endlessly. Even if she never really listened, he had been happy just being near her. But now the cold man in front of her does not match her memories. Her hands press down on his shoulders, pleading that he was never like this before and should not look at her with such a cold expression. But when she touches his shoulders, Caspian shoves her off in disgust, telling her not to touch him. She demands to know why he has that look. Caspian tugs at the door, no reaction. Serafina reaches out, trying to touch his face, just as her hand gets close. He mocks her, asking if she wants to hit him again. Her hand instantly freezes. Caspian glares at her furiously, warning her that this is the absolute last time he will tolerate her. He demands she open the door. Serafina's eyes grow red, her voice trembling as she begs him to stay. She admits she was wrong and begs him not to leave her. Serafina had been waiting for him since early morning, filled with deep regret. Hearing this, Caspian's face remains completely calm as he asks who she is pretending to be. He does not accept her apologies and wants her gone. He hopes she never appears before him again. This city is too big. If they pay attention, their paths will never cross, and they can be complete strangers. Serafina finally understands. She had only wanted him to bow his head first. He was always the one giving in, but not everything can be yielded. Now she can only beg him for mercy. She begs for just one chance to make it up, refusing to accept him with anyone else. With those desperate words, Serafina leans even closer to him inside the car. Caspian uses his hands to shove her back as she starts acting completely unhinged. He reminds her that their cup is already broken and he does not want her compensation. She pleads to forget everything, begging him to go back to how they used to be. Caspian shoves her hard, yelling furiously for her to get the hell away from him. Forced to let go from the shove, she recoils just as the car window is pounded loudly. Heavy bangs echo through the glass. Caspian looks over and sees his mother pounding outside. She demands that Serafina open the door, while his father watches in utter disbelief. Arthur never expected Serafina to do this, something he could never have imagined before. Feeling forced by respect for his parents, Serafina finally unlocks the car door. Caspian scrambles out immediately, followed by Serafina, who stands before his parents. Bowing her head in apology, she addresses them as Uncle Arthur and Auntie Evelyn. She says she is sorry, having gone to their house many times before without success. Caspian's father had always refused her, never expecting to cross paths like this. Evelyn is absolutely livid at her right now. Only now is she panicking after the fact, trying to apologize. She admits she initially blamed Caspian for the breakup, thinking Serafina was entirely innocent. But this crazy stunt, it is absolutely beyond the limit. She asks how a child they watched grow up could turn out like this. The perfect daughter-in-law they cherished has turned into this nightmare. Caspian squeezes his mother's hand, while Serafina stands there completely speechless. Powerless to argue, she can only listen in silence to Arthur's cold fury. Arthur's tone is ice cold, no forgiveness offered. They already accepted the apology, and Caspian is married now. Move on, do not bother him ever again. Serafina's voice sinks. Do they really know everything about her? Who is Orlia Shia? How long have they even known each other? Have they actually even tried to understand each other? How can they let Caspian stay with her? She cannot understand why his parents allowed this sudden marriage. Evelyn glares back. They knew Serafina inside and out. And the result, they knew each other for 26 years. She calls her a textbook negative example. Silence follows. Evelyn continues, shocked that they must face this scene. She ignores how they were treated. They do not care. They wanted Caspian to be happy. Reality proved otherwise. Instead, she neglected Caspian, pushed him aside at every single turn. They used to make excuses for her, even comforting Caspian. They told him to treat her like a sister and protect her. Knowing his quiet personality, he would never complain without reason. But her constant cold treatment was simply too much to bear. Recalling this hurts, but Arthur sighs and says it is fine. He adds that Orlia is wonderful. Caspian almost laughs aloud. Hearing his father's blunt phrasing somehow manages to cool his mother's anger. Serafina hides her pain, but her eyes, already turning slightly red. She cannot listen anymore. Turning away, she prepares to make her exit. A quiet apology, then she quickly bows and slips inside her car. One tear falls. He turns, silently observing his parents as they watch. Grief marks their faces. Anger is not the only thing they feel. They watched her grow up. She was supposed to be their family. Frustration and pity clash, leaving them feeling incredibly conflicted. Do not be sad anymore, he comforts them, holding back a sigh. He quickly shifts the topic entirely, asking why they dropped by his shop. His mother explains she had the day off to shop with his father. They just wanted to visit, never expecting to run straight into her here. Inside they go, the three of them find a quiet spot to sit. Knowing they do not like coffee, he quietly brews 2 warm teacups. His father looks up, asking if Serafina came looking for him before. Only for pointless drama, he admits. His mother lets out a cold snort. Who knows her motives? She was never around before, but now she is everywhere. They stay talking for a while longer. After offering some final warnings, they leave. Once they go, he turns around to head back inside the shop. No surprise, his staff are standing there, staring at him in complete shock. He raises an eyebrow. They clearly heard every word of that messy conversation. "Boss, I was not eavesdropping on purpose," his employee stammers out quickly. The girl was just far too striking to ignore out there. She had been standing outside, watching the shop like some kind of spy. Piecing things together, the team easily figured out the whole ugly truth. He waves them off seriously. Who has time for this drama anyway? Lily speaks up, furious that Serafina could be so incredibly fake. He simply smiles. His eyes land on the mugs in the display cabinet. Since she brought up those cups again, it is time for payback. Pack them all up, he instructs Lily. I am returning them to her. Lily brings a box over, asking if she should really pack up everything. He offers her one of the cups, but she immediately shakes her head. He inspects the cup Serafina used for years. Time to let go. He drops the final cup on top, pulls out his phone, and texts Alora. He asks Alora if she can deliver a few items back to Serafina. Reading the text, Alora gets instantly excited and asks if he is around. She is having lunch with Serafina anyway. He replies right away. Still at the shop, he originally planned on delivering the box himself. True to her word, Alora arrives in under 30 minutes and sits down. Sizing him up, she immediately knows exactly what went down here. Serafina came looking for you, she guesses. He slowly nods in agreement. She dragged him inside her car, locking the doors and acting wild. Alora raises an eyebrow, asking if the girl did anything completely crazy. Not quite, he explains. His parents suddenly showed up and saw everything. Alora finds it hilarious. Serafina had been desperate to apologize to them, but they had flatly refused her, making this sudden reunion complete chaos. With everything happening today, they certainly would not give her a warm welcome. Instead, Caspian pulled out a Lily of the Valley mug and set it on the table. Alora froze, staring at him. She asked if he had actually glued it back together. She had no idea how badly shattered it was, so seeing it was shocking. Him suddenly producing an identical cup made her think he repaired the original one. Caspian shook his head, telling her it was in tiny pieces, so he bought a new one. 59.9 yuan each. Alora laughed out loud, clapping her hands happily. She gave a thumbs up, promising to deliver it at noon. But Alora smiled, warning him that the girl might just smash it to pieces. Hearing this, Caspian hauled a massive cardboard box from the floor to the table. If she wants to break it, let her. Alora opened the lid and gasped. Wholesale business, Caspian smiled, telling her she had 19 more to break. He had returned her things anyway, so she should not bring it up again. Alora stared at the cups, amazed she fought over such cheap junk. She actually attacked her childhood boyfriend over it. She asked why 19. He explained Thatcher took one, leaving 19. Her eyes lit up. You want one? Caspian offered. Alora choked on her breath for a second. Since Thatcher took one, she would take one too, laughing as she agreed. She said to leave the remaining 18 for Serafina to break slowly. Caspian lifted the box, offering to carry it to her car, and followed her out. Alora got inside, rolled down the window, and gave him a soft smile. She told him to stop being sad, promising to yell at Serafina for him. Then she drove off, arriving at Serafina's place a short while later. As soon as she saw Serafina, she unleashed an absolute barrage of insults. She asked if she was going wild again, constantly trying to pester Caspian. Stop meddling, he is married now, and Alora's scolding did nothing. Serafina barely reacted to the harsh words until the final comment landed. Hearing those words, Serafina lost her temper and smashed her wine glass. What kind of marriage do they have anyway? Why bring it up again? Alora raised an eyebrow, relieved they booked a private room to avoid a scene. Otherwise, everyone would be staring. Alora poured her friend more wine. She slid the glass over, saying she would also find her completely unreliable. No one ever knew when she might do something totally out of line. It was just human nature, so she urged her to let it go. After all, she had not forced Julian to stay when he chose to leave. Serafina remained silent for a long moment before finally whispering her reply. "They are not the same," she said, her eyes filled with sorrow. Julian was just a passing phase, but she and Caspian shared so many years. Now he was letting go, and she wondered if wanting him to stay was wrong. Alora simply did not want to hear any more of her delusional excuses. She pulled a cup from the box, saying Caspian wanted her to have it. Serafina froze in shock at the sight. Alora offered a tight smile. She explained this was his way of making amends with an identical replacement. It was still a gift from her ex, so there was no difference. As long as she did not overthink it, everything remained unchanged. The mug drops, shattering loudly on the floor with an ear-piercing crash. Serafina stands up with a dark expression, ready to leave and confront Caspian. But Alora just bends down and lifts a huge box. She slams them down on the table, saying Caspian knew she would break it. He even left 17 more backup cups, making Serafina glare in pure anger. She has never absolutely hated a simple cup designed so much in her life. Meanwhile, Orlia is stuck in another long meeting that afternoon. By the time she leaves, it is already past 6 p.m. She rushes to her car. Rushing inside, she buckles up and grabs her phone before starting the engine. She texts Caspian, telling him her meeting ran late so she might be delayed. Orlia tells him to eat first if he is hungry, but Caspian replies instantly. He asks if she has eaten yet, and Orlia quickly types back. She says not yet, so Caspian texts back that he will wait for her. Reading his sweet reply, Orlia cannot help but smile at her phone. Suddenly, a notification pops up warning her the battery is dying. It will shut down in 30 seconds, so she puts it away and drives off. But as she arrives home, an uninvited guest is waiting for her downstairs. There is always someone blocking her path back home. Right now, that annoying obstacle is Serafina, standing directly in front of her. This is actually their very first time meeting face to face alone. Serafina did not expect to run into Caspian's legally wedded wife like this. She always looked down on Orlia Shia, but seeing her still sparks instant jealousy. It makes her incredibly bitter as she glares at her rival. Serafina stands tall, her entire body radiating a freezing, hostile aura. Talk about a wolf in sheep's clothing. Orlia really cannot be bothered with her. She has no desire to speak to this classless woman who blocks her way. Orlia tries to sidestep and walk past, but Serafina blocks her again. Only then does Orlia stop, giving her a freezing, direct stare of warning. Before this, she never truly understood why rivals in love always see red. Serafina also never imagined she would end up fighting over Caspian Lu. She knows that in any conflict, Caspian will always side with Orlia. Caspian will always protect Orlia, and that painful reality makes Serafina lose it. Just picturing Orlia entering Caspian's home makes her completely lose her mind. "Get out of here," Serafina demands, but Orlia just rolls her eyes. Orlia replies that she lives here, so Serafina is the one who should leave. Telling the actual female owner of the home to scram is completely absurd. Serafina's voice drops, asking if Orlia truly believes Caspian actually likes her. With a cruel laugh, her eyes fill with absolute mockery. She proudly boasts about how many years he has spent loving her alone. First loves are impossible to forget, and she will always own his heart. That special place is hers forever, no matter what marriage certificate Orlia holds in her hands. Having a legal certificate does not mean she gets to act so arrogant. She claims she can easily make them divorce right now. Orlia stays quiet, which only seems to encourage Serafina to keep going. Her words cross the line as she brags about Caspian chasing her around. Every single day, the look in his eyes was always pure adoration. He would reach out to hold my hand, crave my touch, and even kiss me. Saying this, Serafina pauses, her heart sinks. She hated when Caspian kissed her and never once reciprocated. Just a fleeting few times, he must have known. So he stopped trying. Now, raw regret completely eats her alive. What was she thinking back then? She quickly hides her pain. Do you honestly think Caspian wants you, she sneers, or do you want more details? Orlia just looks back with cool, calm eyes. So why did you hurt Caspian? Orlia asks quietly. She does not claim to be saintly, but this is not Caspian's fault. He simply had the terrible luck of loving the wrong person. Orlia knows that pain too. It aches to be hurt like that. But now he is married to her, living a good life. As the toxic ex, Serafina should have stayed buried. Instead, she returns right as he is finally healing, using old memories like weapons to drag his life back into total chaos. Caspian's world. Honestly, Orlia's savage comeback completely freezes Serafina in her tracks. That single sentence shatters her defenses. Orlia Shah, who the hell do you think you are? She snarls. Do you think I can destroy your entire reputation? She knows Orlia is a university professor. Crushing her would be easy. Yet Orlia just stands there, totally unfazed by the desperate threats. She only wonders if Caspian occasionally feels sad remembering her. Orlia gives her one last, cold glance. Caspian will only regret ever loving you, she says, then walks away, leaving Serafina burning with absolute rage behind her. But when Orlia walks past her own house, Serafina blinks. She assumes Orlia is just too shaken to go inside. That parting shot was just a weak attempt to save face. Serafina scoffs, calling her a coward. Just then, Alora and Thatcher pull up. They spot Orlia heading off down the street. They rushed over specifically to stop Serafina from making a scene. Alora frowns. Did they just have a fight? Thatcher watches Orlia fade down the road, wondering where she is going. Did Serafina actually break her? Thatcher recalls Orlia's usual calm. It seems highly unlikely. Even if she was furious, why leave? On foot without her car, Alora lets out a soft laugh. Maybe we are overthinking this. She does not know Orlia well. But the way she looks at Caspian screams that she needs him. They are genuinely a perfect match, moving on the exact same wavelength. But Alora also knows Orlia is no helpless, innocent lamb. She was not intimidated by Serafina in the slightest. There is absolutely no way she would ever run away from petty taunts. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Caspian sends Orlia several messages but gets no replies. He glances at his watch, 7:30. She should be home by now. Anxious, he paces over to the balcony window. He stares down, waiting for her to return. Then he spots movement near the gates. Orlia is walking away from the complex, and Serafina is standing right there. A cold shiver runs down his spine. There is no way Serafina would target Orlia. Or would she? Absolutely, yes. Realizing the danger, Caspian immediately leaps into action. He does not even bother changing his shoes, hitting the elevator button in a panic. Charging out of the lobby, he intercepts Serafina right at the entrance steps. She was just about to head inside. Catching sight of him, she calls his name. Caspian, he suppresses a raw urge to grab her, his voice dropping to a hiss. What did you just say to Orlia? Hearing his demand, Serafina simply relaxes. She laughs, asking what she could possibly say to her, mocking his obvious worry. Then why did she leave? Caspian presses. Serafina just shrugs with an innocent look. Maybe she has a glass heart, she sneers, calling his wife a coward. Remembering how Orlia stood there in stunned silence, Serafina feels a surge of triumph. Her mood instantly brightens. Honestly, you can feel the sheer malice dripping from her here. So what if they are married? She and Caspian grew up together since childhood. Orlia is absolutely nothing to her. Unbothered, she openly brags about her petty victory. She happily explains exactly why she thinks Caspian's wife is so incredibly weak. She claims she only shared details of their shared past before Orlia ran away. If that is not cowardly, what is? Listening to this, Caspian's lips begin to tremble. His voice is hoarse, but he forces a terrifyingly calm question. What did you say? Serafina waves it off. She told Orlia how much Caspian used to adore her. How he always wanted to hold her hand, sharing every little detail of his life. How they shared kisses, and how she would always hold a special place in his heart. She even asked Orlia how much of his love she could ever hope to get. The very next second, smack, a loud, sharp slap echoes through the night. He delivers a brutal blow to shut her mouth. Hearing those toxic lies made his head spin. His mind went totally blank. It felt as if all the blood in his veins froze. His remaining tolerance for this woman has finally reached its absolute breaking point. Her head whips to the side, messy hair covering her face. Total, heavy silence follows. She cannot believe he struck her over another woman. Her chest tightens with agony. He actually raised his hand against her, and it was all for someone else. Caspian glares at her with pure fury. Orlia is his wife, his actual family. Serafina brushes her hair back, her eyes bloodshot. She demands to know what she is. Does her own pain not matter? Hearing her whine, Caspian lets out a dark, quiet chuckle. So she finally understands pain. When she attacked him over a cup, she felt nothing. Now she is suffering the devastating consequences of her own twisted behavior. It feels like an invisible hand is squeezing her chest, making it impossible to breathe. The agony is sharper than anything she has ever felt. Caspian coldly brushes past her. He has to find Orlia. Without looking back, he sprints out toward the gates. Alora and Thatcher have been watching everything unfold from a safe distance. As Caspian approaches, they quickly point him toward the left street, where Orlia went. Thatcher worries for his friend but can only sigh deeply, choosing not to follow. Alora smiles, asking why he is staying behind, but Thatcher only shakes his head. Alora advises that, in this situation, it is better to let him cool off on his own. Her smile deepens as she admits she was ready to pull him back herself. Thatcher nods toward Serafina, telling Alora to go check on her. The two walk over. Under the streetlights, they see it. A bright red mark stains her pale face. Yes, Caspian actually slapped her. Neither of them makes a snarky comment. Thatcher just says to take her home. Alora notices Serafina standing completely frozen in place, utterly shattered. She decides to just get her home, staying completely quiet so she does not trigger her. If a relationship is not meant to be, it is just not meant to be. After all, today's disastrous outcome was entirely Serafina's own doing. Serafina looks almost lifeless, leaning quietly against the cold car window. There is nothing but dead silence the entire way. Meanwhile, Caspian tries calling Orlia again. Her phone is still completely turned off. He walks the streets for a long time. The shops are brightly lit and look incredibly warm, but he cannot find her anywhere. His own heart is wildly restless. To him, Orlia was never a coward. She is gentle yet strong, but Serafina's words would make anyone feel terrible. Perhaps Orlia just could not bear to listen to those painful things. She might even hate him for it now, but he desperately needs to see her. Even if she wants a divorce, can you blame her? They met halfway anyway. He cannot let the trouble he caused bring her any more distress. He was meant to be alone, but he is incredibly grateful she was there for him. She helped him through his lowest point. Suddenly, loud thunder rumbles across the dark sky. Heavy raindrops begin to fall. It is pouring now. He needs to find Orlia fast. Remembering the coffee shop is quite close, he jogs over to grab some cover. Hopes to get 2 umbrellas. Meanwhile, Orlia waits inside a cake shop. She holds a slice of cake, the exact same kind Caspian shared with her before. She remembers how good it tasted, and knows Caspian must really love it too. That is exactly why she went out of her way to buy him a slice. She stands near the exit, feeling somewhat numb as she reaches out for the rain. Walking home in a downpour will definitely ruin the cake. So she turns back inside, asking the manager to double wrap the box. She also casually asks if they have an umbrella she could borrow. Meanwhile, Thatcher and Alora are driving back after dropping off a devastated Serafina. Suddenly, heavy drops of water begin hitting the front windshield of the car. Thatcher assumes it is just water dripping from trees, but more drops follow. He sticks his hand out the window, telling Alora that it is definitely raining. Alora sighs heavily, remembering that Caspian is out there trying to find Orlia. The weather is really not cooperating. Thatcher flips on the windshield wipers. It was supposed to be clear. The forecast did not mention rain at all. Alora deadpanned, "That is not rain, those are just Serafina's tears." Thatcher laughs, joking that having a bestie like her is truly a blessing. Caspian did not have an umbrella when he left, so they should bring him one. Alora nods, staring out the window at the heavy, dark sky above them. She has a bad feeling in her chest. She hesitates for a second. She says she wants to go back and check on Serafina before she does something reckless. Thatcher's expression shifted slightly. He gave a quick nod and made a U-turn, driving back the way they came. Serafina, completely dazed, opened the door to her house, her entire body slumped heavy against the wall. Sliding down to the floor, her slender hands hugged her knees, burying her head. Deep inside her arms, it felt like a massive hole was torn in her heart. Blood constantly pouring out, deep, heavy loss surged within. Suddenly, another loud crack of thunder roared. Serafina froze, terrified. Her delicate body trembled violently. In a trance, she recalled the childhood moments when she was terrified of storms, besides her own parents. Only Caspian would pull her into his tight embrace, stroking her hair and comforting her. "Do not fear, I am here." Her body steadied, her head buried deep in the boy's embrace. A faint voice murmured, "Out, do not leave me, do not." She kept repeating it. Caspian looked at her, saying softly, "I am not going anywhere, I am right here with you." "Caspian will not leave me," Serafina muttered to herself, reaching up to scratch her messy hair, standing up looking disheveled. The image of Orlia kept flashing in her mind, that woman who claimed to be Caspian's wife. She screamed until her voice cracked, a heartbreak turning into malice. "It is all that bitch's fault, otherwise he would have come back." Her pale fingers gripped her phone and made a call that quickly connected. Serafina's voice was terrifyingly cold. Her last name is Shah, the young female professor at Zhang City University. "Get it done immediately." She put the phone down, looking down at the spot where the glass had shattered. Her cheek was still throbbing with a dull pain, but her heart hurt 10,000 times more, as if viciously yanked apart. Did Caspian hurt this much back then, too? She hated herself so deeply. She regretted it so much, keeping her head down, muttering constantly as endless regret surged in her heart. She walked like a corpse to the sofa cabinet, taking out an already opened bottle of sleeping pills. Recently, she either relied on alcohol at night or used these pills to cope. Only those pills to numb herself. Serafina glanced at them. A full bottle had 30 pills, though she had already taken 3, tilting her head back, pouring the entire remaining bottle of pills into her mouth, then poured a glass of water and chugged it all down. Her body slumped onto the floor. Tears slid down her pale face as she weakly unlocked her phone. Unlocked the screen, a tragic, beautiful smile spreading across her pale lips. Meanwhile, on the street, Caspian had just finished telling Thatcher his location. Text message popped up on his phone from a blacklisted number. There was only one line, "Goodbye, but I miss you so much." He looked at it calmly, then locked the screen, figuring Serafina had finally seen the light. He figured she was moving on. Then Thatcher asked if he had found her yet, or if he wanted help looking. Caspian looked up and saw Thatcher jogging over with an umbrella. Caspian looked around, asking where Alora was. Did Thatcher take her home? Thatcher walked over, explaining she went to Serafina's place instead. Caspian still could not reach Orlia, so he shook his head. And he sighed. Even with her personality, she would likely be furious this time. Thatcher scanned the room, saying that both he and Alora felt that miss. Orlia might not be that fragile. Think about it. Where could she possibly be? Right now, hearing this, he started pondering, but they had not known each other for very long. Where could Orlia possibly go? Suddenly, Thatcher's phone started ringing. He glanced at it and hit answer. Alora's frantic voice came through the line, screaming, "Thatcher, get over here right now."